Hello, welcome to Soul Tribe Conversations. I'm here with my sister Phoenix. She goes by Phoenix. I also know you as Alicia Young Hall. I don't know if you're going by that these days, but she's definitely a homie, a friend, member of the Soulology community. And we're popping up doing a quick little impromptu chat and yeah, just chilling, talking about life. How are you doing, sister?
I'm doing so good. We're connecting those grids together, coming in strong with the rebirth after this eclipse.
For
Oh,
sure. And I
and
guess we're here
River's
with
got a little cameo back there.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, oh my gosh, that eclipse, it was, such a powerful day. It was such and it was interesting energies. It wasn't like other eclipses. I mean, I was kind of in the flow of a lot of different session work, ceremony work, so I don't know, it's kind of in my own energy, but it felt very pure. Felt very clear.
Yeah, well, it took me back to the first time I even paid attention to such a thing as eclipses. Like I was remembering this time. I'd been on a grid work trip before I knew I was actually grid working back in 2017. We went to all of the Northeast states. It was like Pennsylvania, New Jersey, the White House, with my family. There were five of us traveling like a star family. And then we got down to South Carolina and then Florida. And it was in Naples, Florida, this big eclipse was happening. And all these people were getting these glasses. And at the time, I mean, that wasn't that long ago, but in my mind, I had no idea that eclipses were a big deal or whatever. But I remember that I hadn't been bleeding for 2 years because I'd had a child and all of the things. And all of a sudden, at the moment of that solar eclipse, I started to bleed.
Oh, wow.
And that was the very first time I looked up. I also had a near death experience that kind of initiated me, but that was the first time I looked up how is our blood connected to the sun. But the
Mm,
interesting thing is you won't find any information about that. They only connect the blood to the moon, which I think is quite interesting. And mine was obviously connected to the sun. And that was probably just the beginning of me even learning about, things called chakras or the spirit. Or, yeah, it was
right.
like the unraveling. And I sense like something like that happening for others that are just like in their regular consciousness, going through the motions, doing the work, making the job, paying the bills, having the kids, to like all of a sudden in the blink of an eye, like something like this could literally like reconfigure your perception and open up new pathways and gateways of perceiving.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting because, like, the sun is a stable frequency. It's across all these different cultures, there's all these different archetypes or different ways that they try and describe different gods for the sun or, different beings, different ways to connect with the sun. But, like, the sun is just it is like the primordial sort of like frequency that sustains life and like builds like this whole entire reality like around us, like holds the gravity fields, the electromagnetic fields, all of the light, all the frequency fields. And I was actually talking to a brother about it earlier. He asked me, he's like, why do you connect with solar Christ frequencies? And I was like, because it's a stabilized frequency. It's balanced in its sort of electromagnetism, balanced in its positive and negative polarities, balanced in everything. And so it makes sense that if someone's actually staring at the sun and they're actually kind of in like a ceremony, right? It's like what is an eclipse? Like it's like a whole entire collective consciousness ceremony. They can receive some sort of huge download, like attunement that's going to like activate these different layers of their field, activate these different layers of their light body, and assist them in like opening up things that aren't flowing. And I guess it's interesting how that correlated also with your cycle, right? Like it kind of like, I guess maybe cleansed or sort of like opened up like different layers of your cycle for you to like, I guess, begin your period again. And like, I mean, I don't, I'm not a woman, but I know a little bit about cycles. Like it's very much like your rhythm and your flow of like your life and like your lifestyle, right? And like how you kind of go through these periods of like sort of death and rebirth, like on a month to month basis. So yeah, like deepening back into yourself.
Yeah, and then it's taking on a whole new meaning that it was just a function of a woman's body in order to have children, which is all I saw it as. And really like usually disappointed when it comes because it's inconvenient, to understanding the power of it. Because one time, many years later, after this solar initiation, before I knew what it was and the preparation of the path it would take me on, I remember the last time I went to the United States, my homeland, I was in Austin, Texas. Thank you, baby. And I went to lay hands on a brother who I'd worked with at Dell many years before, who had had a post-vaccine injury. They weren't calling it that, but that's what it was. And he lost his ability to walk. And as soon as I got to Austin, I'd seen that that was happening, and I went to go see him at the St. David's Hospital. And I was quite a different person than when he first met me, when we were working at Dell together at the headquarters office, building computers and tech, and building AI before we knew what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And anyways, I was laying hands. I had some master crystals I was working with a little sound, really coming out of the closet, I guess, with what I'd been doing in the cave in Costa Rica. And when I got up and I was finished, blood came out of my body, and it said, "This is the blood of the Christ." And when I heard it, I was like, it just changes everything about the story of the Christ and the blood and the crucifixion and the suffering to something of more like the healing of it, the power of it, the representation of it, the fact that all the women are the ones that are carrying this blood. And it is used, now I understand, to purify space, to digest and purify the suffering and transfiguration of the energy fields around you, to be able to have that type of effortless flow, so to speak. I mean, I remember times when we didn't bleed, and I don't believe we need to be having blood cycles at all. I mean, I believe that we will, I feel more Hyperborean in that type of sense, but I understand we're meeting the reality, the densities where we're at right now.
Yeah. Well, and it's like the creation of the child, right? So it truly is like the crystal child coming through your womb, and kind of like the emanation of, I guess, your side of the coin of that, like coming through like every single month, and like your womb being a portal, like the access point really into reality. I heard a great quote. I forget who said it, but it was like, no one comes to earth except through the consent of the mother's womb, right? Like the woman like decides who gets to get here. I mean, if everything goes right, like if everything goes proper.
What a rewrite from what the church says, where especially in the Mormon church and all of the patriarchal religions, they say you have to go to me through the Father. Like even in the marriages in the Mormon church, they tell the women that they can only get to God through their husband.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. I have family members that are Mormon, and I definitely do see the father sort of like archetype, right? The biblical sort of like Christian father, and that you can only get to God through the father. I mean, I guess it is true, right? Like through like the Melchizedek priesthood and through the different priesthoods, instead of like there being a priestesshood, which is actually something I went through a bit of like a going back to actually like the Mormon church for like a sec, like last year. Like I went with my mom to like check some things out after going through massive dark nights of the soul and like interdimensional kind of like battles and stuff like that, like with some homies and some tribe. I was like, all right, is this not what God wants? You know what I mean? And so I got back to some of the more Abrahamic sort of like stuff, and I found some wisdom, right? Like studying in the Bible, I found some actual like 3D, actually like base foundational masculine sort of structure, like principalizing into the physical reality sort of genius. But then of course, like the overlays and the manipulation that's like put on top of it to sort of like dominate. But then it's like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, my biggest teachers, like some of my biggest teachers are women. And like the priestesshood is like oh gosh, this camera's gonna zoom in on me. I got this weird ass camera. So the priestesshood here, let me see. I'm gonna have to try and reconnect this. All right, can you still hear me?
I can still hear you.
All right, true. I don't know how to work this. I have this like cool like 4K camera, but it always like falls apart.
I love how it just zoomed in on you like you were in the depths of the movie, and they were like, get a zoom in on this one.
If I put my hands up around my face, it does that. I don't know exactly what that is. Oh my goodness. I definitely do want to fix that. That is pretty essential. Um, I don't know if our brother Marcus is in the back end, but if you could fix that real quick, that'd be very cool. True. Oh, there it is. I see how. All right. So anyway, all right. So the priestesshoods, right? Sort of like this awareness that the women hold the codes, right? The ability to hold the womb, to hold the structure, to hold the house, to hold the nest, but also like to actually downstep reality into something. It needs to like land, like it needs to land into an actual like structure, like a space, like a sort of like voidal space. Like, and us men, we can create all these complex, interesting templates and all this interesting stuff, but like without the actual women, like to kind of anchor it, we're just spinning our wheels. Like, it's just like kind of a nonsensical, like we're having fun with ourselves in our reality, but like the women are going to actually like take the structure and turn it into something useful. And like, also like, I mean, so many women, my goodness, I should change the camera, but so many women are like portals of these different frequencies and portals of these different structures. And so anyway, I just find it interesting, right? Like this kind of like awareness that like perhaps there is something to some of those Christian faiths, but they're missing essentially like half of the coin, right?
Yeah, they're missing the mother. That's what this is all about. That is the awakening. You know, every time I would do psychedelics, I'd be brought to the Book of Mormon. I would open that thing up and I would get deep into it. And any text, we're here to synthesize all of them. And, you know, I look at the Quran and I'm reading the Bible and I'm like, none of these mofos have honored the mother. Even when you go in the Catholic Church, the mother's kind of there, but she's kind of in a cage. And it's like, bitch, we birth life. Like,
Right.
we honor the mother. It's really simple. I'm not saying this in any kind of scorned way. It's just the true return and the ascent of the family when we bring the mother and the father together. Even like the whole idea of like the Father, the Child, and the Holy Spirit doesn't really reference the actual mother. And I feel a wound. The final wound for all of us to heal is the wound of the mother, as a mother or with our mother, but also, you know, it represents our connection to the earth and why we have abused her so much without really feeling what that means.
Yeah.
So it's like that final healing of the wound of the mother and bringing it all back. It's always been the missing piece. And I think I still very much believe in and see visions of the times that will come together again in synagogues and cathedrals.
Right.
And light this mother up. We've done it before, actually. It's just that false teachings and false apparatuses like the crucifixion implant, which is a black magic curse, has been put at the front of these sacred places with pipe organs and sacred geometry, you know, where we could really come together and sing and remember together. I see the reversal or the rebirth of something like that in this lifetime.
For sure. Well, I think it's interesting too, because without the feminine present, right, it's my experience that actually going to church is so stale, right? It's kind of like dead. Like, it's just like, it's this very still, artificial kind of like everything is the same structure. There's no kind of like beauty. There's not like the beauty way, right? Like kind of like the essence of like intricacies or like, you know, unique kind of like, I guess, whatever, like interior design, like outfits, right? Like kind of like style. Like it's like this artificial, stale, stuck, almost like business, like masculine frame, right? That it's so suppressive. Like it kind of like fits people in this box and they have to cut their hair. And then I come in like a fucking, you know what I mean? Like this. And it's like, whoa, you know what I mean? And then have a super deep chat about whatever, because I can go there with anybody. Like, and that's a big part of my spirituality is like, I'm actually very interested in talking to the Mormon or, you know, the mystic who works with the Egyptians or the person who works with Taoism or whatever. Like, I want to know what their structure is. Like, I want to actually understand it. So I'm not afraid of it. But also simultaneously, I don't necessarily agree. And then when I'm there, I'm like a scientist. Like I'm like mapping it. I'm like, all right, what's really going on here? Like, what are the actual deities you're reaching out? If you reach out to God, are you getting to God? Like, is God in this room right now during this ceremony? You know what I mean? Like, what are we really doing here? Yeah, and I feel it to be void or empty of, well, not void, missing the void and missing the mother, right? Missing that sort of template.
Damn, that's so good. That's so real. That's why I really believe in, I always go through this battle of like, we don't need medicines, we don't need psychedelics, we don't need shamans, we don't need, but I also can see the power of sometimes, because we need a mass awakening across the religious dogmatic world. That's the
Right.
majority of people are holding that dominant morphogenetic field template, the false religion templates that are not ultimately liberating them. They have pure hearts, they're praying to God for answers, but they've forgotten how to directly connect to the source. And sometimes you need to break your reality. And sometimes you need to break your relationship to time, and then just the structure of like the bowing down. I know in the Mormon church, I've met people that are high up and they're really doing Masonic rituals. And there's a lot more honoring of the men than the women. And not to mention, I mean, now the truth is actually coming out about SRA, satanic ritual abuse, right in the church. And a bunch of picture perfect moms that wanted to pretend like it wasn't going on and make excuses for their own men. Like, these are real stories that are coming up. This is the true revelation, actually. You know, when we talk about revelations and we talk about an apocalypse, what a break and what a shock when you start to realize the very structures that you believe were for purity, holiness, and finding God have been doing quite the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it's interesting because like I sort of hope for a reclamation, right, of like all these things. Like in a way, it's, you know, a lot of people are sort of like excited about the idea of the breakdown of like, let's say, governments in America, or sort of like, you know, structures, and some of them do need to collapse for sure. Like there are tons of organizations that need to collapse. And so it's not to prevent or to bypass that sort of collapsing of structure, you know, even the things with the guru template, or, you know, sort of like mystics, you know, being more like cult leaders sort of dynamics where they, you know, claim themselves to be all powerful and better than everybody else, and then sort of manipulate people into fitting into their framework and their template. And then when people bring things up, right, there's a very condescending sort of like, I'm better than you, I know better, you just don't understand, you know, sort of like gaslighting, and sometimes like aggressive or passive aggressive behaviors that are kind of like structured around that. And so that needs to break down. But the idea that there are experts is still something that I still resonate with, which is a weird thing. And not experts in the sense of like worship the experts. I think that's a literal template. That's actually stuff I've had to remove from my DNA and from my coding, like from my spheres, is like a sort of Anunnaki based like worship of experts and gods and deities that was like programmed into my template so that I would essentially like, you know, give my power away consistently. But once you get over that and you sort of clear that out, you don't have this sort of bi-wave frequency with it anymore, where it's like you're either worshiping it and you're like obsessed with it, or you're like rebelling against it, right? And you're saying like, it's all wrong, it's all bad. It's more just like this awareness that like in certain settings, like let's say with a surgeon or with, you know, a particular person, like I want the expert doing the thing. You know what I mean? Like I want the person who has the more gnosis, the more experience, who has like tons of study, because something is very sensitive. You know what I mean? Like it's a very unique, an electrician or something, like building a house. It's like, it can be very, I don't want the government to tell me how to build this structure. I have the right to build. I have the right to do what I want on my land, but then they do the wiring wrong and the house burns down. You know what I mean? And so it's just kind of like giving people their kind of thing. And I do see that in mysticism. Like I do see that there are particular practitioners who are very advanced in their specific realms. And I think that's empowering for all of us to be aware that we could become advanced and we could step forward and we could lead. Like we could do things that could be very helpful for people, like not to gaslight or diminish ourselves, but then also to be humble and not pedestalize ourselves, and then not manipulate other people to pedestalize. So I think it's like a healing. It's like, how do we claim our strength and our sort of sovereignty in our strength without diminishing the strength and the sovereignty of another? Like, how do we truly be supportive with these tools, with these systems, with these, all these different things we do, and be like a true community, like a true tribe, where like everyone gets their due, their say, and it's not like everyone come worship the prophet, or come, you know, the bishop has all the keys, or, you know, like whatever. It's like, no, like this star child comes in, has no initiations, and has epic level keys. You know what I mean? Like But then again, someone who has more initiations might help that star child access their keys. So how do we use all of it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, this is so important right now. It's really number one. I always say I bow to no one and I worship no one or nothing. And I see us all as pure equals in the field, reflections of each other. And there is a stairway to heaven. So of course, there are many dimensions, there are many levels of awakening, of revelation that come. And yeah, it's a really good question what you say, because I think I've just kind of backed out of time and space in all humility and not really come in so much until maybe recently a little online to share a little bit about what I'm experiencing in the quantum realities and the monad and the rainbow light body, and just like living it and really embodying it. And then like, oh yeah, there's a whole world out there. Maybe they'd like to know they have access to these dimensional realities. Here's what it looks like. Nothing's good or bad or right or wrong, but if you're interested in playing in the rainbow light body and in the Buddhic consciousness and going through planetary initiations and really embodying the Christos Trinity frequencies, we might have something to share with you.
Right.
You know?
Well, and you know, I think there's something to the hero coming back from the hero's journey, like Odysseus coming back from the Odyssey to their hometown, right? So they come back to their community and they are the weirdo when they come back. Like, don't get me wrong, like they've been through some shit like that no one else gets. But like now they have expertise, they have like wisdom and awareness from their very unique adventures that other people do not have. And it's like a journey of kind of anchoring that into the society. And of course, there's going to be skepticism, because if someone brings forward new information, there's a discernment process that everyone's going to go through. And so we do need to like get over kind of like our wounding of like, oh, they're judging me, they don't like me, they don't whatever. It's like, of course they are. Like, this is super fucking out there. Like, come on, man. Like, you know, I'm wearing damn dragon shirts and dripped out in crystals. Like, you know, they go to their little church gathering. Like, this is different. You know what I mean? And so it's like a level of self-acceptance, even having fun with it, you know what I mean? And like laughing it off, and then like using it, you know, and being aware that like, yeah, like this, you know, grid work travels, or, you know, your experiences in Costa Rica, or, you know, you're living in Costa Rica. It doesn't seem like there's much of a desire to come back to the US, but like an awareness that like that structure is still anchoring into like the communities and the tribes and the people you're still connected with there. And like, you're still doing that. Like, you're still kind of like bringing that frequency back.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, it's like holding the 0 point field. And honestly, until you even say it, the whole idea of returning home, like a leap of joy comes through my body, because I think I've surrendered so deeply to a divine will beyond my own story that I did right before I came here. And I know that. So I have such peace and relaxation in my soul as I surrender, because my whole world has fallen apart, as many of us have over these last years, to reconfigure itself. And you're just in total surrender to the divine will, in total surrender to from the chaos to the cosmic order and things coming into play. So I've been so much in the void, so much in the 0 point, hardly really interacting so much with the external reality on purpose, so that I could speak and see some pretty far out there things that if I got too involved in what was out there, I would be afraid I'm going to offend somebody. Like, I had to go so far out that I could come back in and be like, no vaccines, no this, no that, no, like zero sensitivity to the idea that someone's not going to accept that, because I already know that's going to be the case, because that's how deep the indoctrination, the programming goes. So you have to remove the way I feel about money, the way I look at money, the way I talk about money. It's so far out there. Like, people, the ones that I have seen are like, you're so far in the future, like, go hide in the cave for a few more years and come back out, and maybe they'll be able to pick it up.
Yeah, you gotta have skills, right, to come out of the cave though. Like, you gotta have like, I mean, there's consequences to be in the cave. It gets a little like interpersonal skills kind of, you know, you come out of the cave, you're like, whoa, look at all this technology. Look at what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't seen the sun in like.
I'm like, repent, put the technology down. No, I mean, listen, I'm trying to find my own balance with technology. I've gone far away from it. There was no technology in the cave. There were some mushrooms in the cave. There's a lot of making love with my divine counterpart in the cave. There were revelations of a cosmic sword. But I was so far removed from the tech. And so, yeah, I worked for Dell for 8 years building it, right? And so I get the polarity integration and neutrality and bringing it all into the center and the 0 point. I live in that way. And then there are certain things as a guardian, as a mother, protector type of energy that's like, okay, let's have some discernment with how deep we want to go with cyborg realities. I'm about maintaining organic ascension, as organic and non-artificial as possible in the name of the mother, please. So it's like finding the balance. And there is something, I thought I would never, I've been in Costa Rica since 2018. I thought I'd never go back to the States. It's been 3.5 years. I have 3 children there who I could almost say I have sacrificed for doing what I've been doing, which is not understood on the normal plane of reality. And I have to accept that. It all goes back to like, you can't be looking for acceptance on this path. Yeah. You can't be looking for someone to understand or give you a kudos. Like, you gotta know, like, you leapt into the void. There's an experiment going on. Not many people have the courage to even leap that deep. And then there is a responsibility. I say this about using psychedelics as well. If you're going to use psychedelics and go into these higher, I wouldn't say necessarily higher, but these depths of consciousness, your responsibility is to bring it back, to be able to digest it, communicate it, bring it back, in some way. Embodiment is the first step, of course, and really the one that matters the most, because that impacts the frequency field, that impacts the morphogenetic field, but then to translate it, communicate it, share it. And who wants to know? That's the other question. Does anybody else want to know about this stuff?
It's a challenge, right? Because, and this is part of actually the last few years, it's also been like the last year, it's been how do we get the cult frequency out, right? Like, how do we get the cult leader, but also like the culty, like everything behind closed doors, everything hidden, right? And I feel like there's still fear. I see it so much in the spiritual community, so much fear around sharing esoteric wisdom, around, other people coming in with different types of information, different instruction sets, different deities, different beings, different frequencies. And I am very aware of the distortion in the field. Like, I'm super aware of all the dark collectives, if anything, perhaps more so than most people, because I've done battle with them. I know their leadership. Like, I know who they are. And like, but like, the thing is like, it's consent-based. Your fear-based frequency is actually part of how that stuff can get to you, right? And it is kind of like manipulating us to keep us small. It's manipulating us to keep us separate. It's manipulating us to not be a tribe, because if we're separate and we don't understand that other people have other things, or if we're sort of like dominating kind of like figures and communities, then what happens is everybody goes, I don't trust that guy. And the person's like, oh, well, I'm super embodied. Look at me. I'm super high level. I'm out here. I just do something epic all the fucking time. It's like, that's great. I love it. I think it's amazing that people do epic level shit. Don't get me wrong. But I think we have to be kind of like ninjas, like kind of like warriors in this. Like, we have to be able to jump in and out of things. We have to be able to understand when there's distortions in the field and clean them up. We have to be aware of when, like, become sovereign in our communication. I've had people step to me lately, like particularly online and also in person a little bit. In person, it's different because people feel my energy field, and it's like, I kind of command the space through my frame, like sort of like psychically, without dominating anyone's field. I'm just chilling. It's just a fun frame. You know what I mean? We're just having fun out here. But like online, like people will be like, like this is psychosis, or this is multiple personality disorder, or this is that. You know what I mean? They're like saying stuff like that. I'm like, I get it. In the sort of like neo-Christian psychology, which has its roots in Christianity. People don't know this. Psychology has its roots in Christianity that called these things psychosis and called these things, sort of like distortions in the field. That's actually where that genesis came from, was the idea that it's wrong, right? And so like, they believe that you should not be having multidimensional experiences where you experience archetypal frequencies in a sort of like storyline sort of state of like, this is a consciousness that has something to say, that has an agenda, that has some sort of story, or this is some sort of elemental, or this is some sort of higher dimensional being. And it's like, this awareness that like, that's ancient. That's just part of human structure. It's literally just part of our code. It's why we dream it. It's why we make it in our movies. It's why it doesn't matter how far we would steer off track. We will always come back to it because it's just part of the field. It's just part of this base foundational structural reality. But it is light and dark and everything in between. And so I think we're here to become truly sovereign, and we need to be able to negotiate it. When things come up, I need to be able to say, no, I don't consent to this. No, I will not have you dominate my story. No, I will not have you dominate my timeline. No, I will not suppress my energy field. No, I will not go back to a suppressed trauma, be the good little boy that you think I should be. I will be me. And we're doing that both in our communications with people, but also interdimensionally. And that's like kind of like how this is happening. And we're doing it with the governments, and we're doing it with all these things. Like sovereignty is being claimed in all these things simultaneously. And that's where I think like we need to like be in the community, be out and about, be around people, be like actually experiencing things. So like when those things come up, those triggers come up, we can learn, right? We can grow, we can evolve, we can have our sovereignty sort of like tested so we can evolve our sovereignty. It's like, you know, lifting weights to build muscle. Like your hypertrophy, you're putting stress on your muscle, progressive overload, so you can build it back stronger. And like that's what some of those experiences are.
Like it's easy to hold the field when you don't have to encounter anything.
Yeah.
You know, but then like to be able to hold that field in practice, to be able to hold that field. And I always say like, that's the real yoga, that's the real breath work, that's the real technique, meditation, anything that you choose to practice. You can throw it all out the window for each and every direct encounter that you have with another version of yourself. And that's like one level of mastery of like, yeah, just encountering the field. And I'm going through this cusp that I'm in right now, because talk about sovereignty on all levels. I don't exist on paper. I don't report to government. I don't have a bank account. I have a phone without a chip or a phone number. So I am consenting by using a phone and a Facebook account with a fake name. That's all I've got. I live in the 0 points, don't really exist in the system any longer. And here I am sitting with like, okay, so I'm sovereign from the systems. And I thought by now, because I've been painting this vision and really holding this type of field for a pretty long time and understanding it looks crazy. Like I had to leave my location, lose my identity, because my daughter was being pursued for getting vaccinated. She was born right in the middle of everything in 2021. And really like feeling that direct encounter with the Smiths, if you want to call it that, with the Child Protective Services pretending to protect my child, and me being like, this isn't fucking protection, you know, and like holding the guardian field. I mainly took it all inside. I hardly did anything external. It was like all of a sudden there were people at my door with giving me tickets and demanding I bring her to the hospital to vaccinate within 5 days, or such and such could happen. And I was just literally, I would take all that anxiety and that adrenaline and I would own it all as my creation. And I would be like, how do I stabilize that? How do I stabilize within an energy field when you feel like there are dark beings that are coming to pursue the idea of having a right to take your child if you don't follow their rules? How do you hold that field? You know, and it's like, and then you just keep practicing it and practicing it and practicing it until you dissolve that governmental reality. Yeah. And then now though, I'm like, okay, so I've done all that. I want to go see my family. You know, do I go back into passports? Like my daughter doesn't have birth certificate, passport. She doesn't, you know, she's unresolved in that system. And it's like, so I feel free in all ways, except that I cannot go where I want to go based on the idea of documents that are required for governments. And of course, like the eternal in me is like, who has the right to say who can go anywhere? Who determines what border you can cross and not? Who are the authorities that say you need these particular photogenic configurations? And I'm like, how do I break that law? I mean, I remember bilocation, I remember teleportation, I remember the idea of being in two places at once. I am a time bender, I'm an air bender, I'm a time traveler. And okay, I want to go to see you guys in September. How do I get there? Do I need to go the old fashioned way of pen and paper and signatures on contracts to get, is there another way? Just really pushing is there another way? And how is that way? And who is that way? And is it a way to create for the many that want to leave behind the old way, but still have access to be in this world and not of it? I thought I would have dematerialized or turned into a Merkabah ship and flown away. And I've realized now over time, being in the cave that you're here now.
Yeah.
And you've got arms and legs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's being a portal, right? You're portaling that new reality, that new timeline down. And so being a leader or sort of template tester or the person at the front, right? At the front of the kind of pack also means you have to face all the challenges first, right? Like you have to like deal with these things, right? What happens when the government says that, you should have documents, you should have vaccinations, you have things like that, like, and actually teaching them, literally teaching the authorities, like, no, actually, I'm a sovereign being, I have rights. But then, it's interesting when it comes to something like like travel, right? Like flying internationally, right? Because I guess they can determine who they want on their planes, right? And so that's when they start to wield their power of saying, if you don't play our game, we don't allow you on our things. And it's such a challenging, because for me, if anything, I'm kind of doing the opposite. Like I have like full awareness of like sovereignty and like that this whole entire government and all these systems and all these taxes and all these finances are just a construct, right? And they're just BS. And it's people who decided that they own the land. And even like the Bible is manipulating timelines and getting a mass collective of consciousness to going towards a specific direction so that everyone's timeline will just head towards that specific direction, right? And that actually true reality is all of us having the freedom to kind of steer and go where we want, when we want, travel across the planet, go to the places we feel called, and play this world like a real video game, right? Like where we can go when we want, how we want, and like as long as we can support ourselves, like we're cool. You know what I mean? But support could come in a ton of different ways. It doesn't have to be epic level money, right? Like there's all different types of ways. And those of us who do grid work and travel, like we have to learn how to hold our shit down when we have no money. We have to learn how to make shit happen. And like, that's part of the initiatory process of like being a soul, like on this earth. It's a very powerful, sacred process. Like it's very valuable actually to like have that level of strength, but then coming home and then coming back into this place of like, I actually feel like if anything, my template is kind of to study the systems that already exist and then take all of this mysticism and downstep it into those systems. Like, and some of them will collapse, as I say, but like, see how they can unify, like, see if we can, cause I'm like in Massachusetts, like we're like the medical capital of like the planet, it's like Boston. And it's like, how can this stuff unify? And I mean, there's a lot of back end stuff that's, grid work stuff. There's all kinds of stuff that's related to that. But then also like with yoga, like how can this unify with the kind of like more the corporate people who go and do yoga every day? You know what I mean? Like how can we have this higher dimensional spirituality gain more credibility so that it can actually access into the masses, and not in a sense of like validation, like I need any of those people to give a fuck what I do, but like I want it to actually downstep into my way. But then I see your way and I'm like, your way is perfect because we need like the pure portals in the pure locations, like who have their sovereignty in a sort of safe, protected realm where they don't need to play in the system, so they can actually spend the time to do the codes, like we need kind of both, you know what I mean? Like, and there's strengths and weaknesses of both, or maybe not strengths and weaknesses, more challenges, right? Like rites of passage of both.
We're on the frontiers of consciousness right now to be having these conversations and to understanding what we're doing with timeline creation. And really, because we can see that it's all been done anyways, we know we're just arriving to it. And it's a configuration of the many coming together. And that's why I'm willing to humble myself from being in only one position to be like, I'll go back in there. I'm a warrior of light. I've been trying to tame my warrior so hard. I mean, my knowledge and my practice of neutrality, stillness, zero, polarity integration is perfected. And then there's also still this like, and hold me back, hold me back. There's a warrior of righteousness and integrity and truth and light and redemption. And yeah, there is some judgment to be had. And it's not in a slaying type of way. It's in the return of the mother, cosmic mother's redemption type of way about how we restore things, maybe you could call it the Sophianic correction. And so it's like, all right, I'll go back into a game. I mean, the last time I was coming back here, it was the first time they were doing facial recognition in the airport 3.5 years ago, and they weren't taking paper money. And it was like going to so digital. I was like, whoa. And then that's why I came back with 30 days left on my passport. And I was like, I think I'm done. I don't think I'm going back. But then now I'm sitting here. When you practice, when you're in those fluid dynamics, when you're working with plasma, when you're in the no attachment field, and in this day, there's this calling, how do we come together? How do we make this work? How do we build that bridge? How do we open this thing up? I thought it was just about like little hubs where people would like tuck away and wait this one out, but it feels a little more like a redemptive, like, the real story is like, get me in there.
Yeah, get me in the game. Yeah. I think the story changes. I think it has different seasons. I think it's not necessarily it being real or right or wrong. It's like there's a legitimacy to your story being kind of, I mean, I call that, even though it's your feminine, the wizard in the woods archetype. You know what I mean? Like super far out, right? Like the Merlin in the, whatever movie, right? The Disney movie, but like, he's got all the pots and pans and he's doing all this magic and he's dancing around and it's all chaos, but it's like genius at the same time. Right. And like, there's a, there's a truth to that in this sort of like real mystics of the world. They often flock off into some nature space and they hide out in a beautiful location with beautiful, like, it's epic, it's awesome, it's a great adventure, it's a great lifestyle, but then I'm so surprised by this too. Like, I didn't see this coming, but I went to this Dance Beyond festival that some homies out in Western Mass who, are a bit more like hippie-ish sort of mystics, like they collaborate with these people, but the people who put on the event are from New York City. And these New York City just reminded me of so many layers of myself. And I've just been going to different events in New York City lately. And there's just like this hustle and flow and grind and these spiritual, mystical people. And they kind of got this like FU kind of like sometimes attitude, they're very hip hop, but like, and I'm just like, yes, that's a thing too. You know what I mean? And they're putting on the dopest ecstatic dances. They got dope DJs. They got dope, dope musicians, and they have to hustle. They don't have a choice. Like you have to go if you live in that city. Like you don't have time to waste. But it also is kind of creating them into these powerful people. And like everyone's there. Everyone's in the same location at once. That's part of the magic of it, is like you could run into anyone at any given day that would be like such another powerful pillar for whatever project you're working on, in whatever realm of, sort of existence you live in as a human. And so like, I dig it. You know what I mean? And I dig being able to walk through both. And I understand that New York City is artificial. And in the past, I used to get super attacked if I walked into a city or I walked into like sort of more of a physical place. I felt I didn't like the energy. I felt gross. I felt whatever. But I actually feel like through engaging those frequencies, I've learned how to set up my shields. I've learned how to structure my light body. I've also just dealt with the challenges and gotten stronger. And so like, I walk in hellish environments and I'm still a fucking beacon. Like my field is lit. You know what I mean? Like I'm a straight portal of all these different rays, all these different frequencies, all these geometries I set up in my field. I ain't scared of shit. You know what I mean? And like, I dig that because then I know when I'm hanging with people who have actually distortions in their field. I was actually receiving tons of downloads around this today. I'm going running in woods to like sacred locations, doing kind of like, I guess you'd say grid work, but it's more like on my template, right? It's more about me. but just kind of anchoring my frequency like more for things. There's a lot of layers to it, but anyway, so I like to run though, because I had this kind of like Jedi, kind of like I'm training in the woods type, like Anakin Skywalker type shit, like do like some calisthenics and run while I'm like on my grid work mission, but so I was receiving on my run back, right? I'm receiving downloads after doing this huge ceremony, right? I'm receiving on my run back that my template, it's like other people might have the distortions in their field of whatever kind of like the spiritual infection that's going on inside this realm, right? They might have that stuff going on inside their field, but when they stand next to someone else who has a sovereign template, who that infection can't get into their field, and they experience light emanating, it's actually pouring into the distortions in their field and helping them remap their template. It's literally teaching them. It's literally showing them another structure, a structure of like these like archetypal issues inside of perhaps whatever sort of frequency of, if they're working with some sort of like fallen emanations of deities, or if they're working with some sort of like, medicines or things that have some sort of distortions inside them, maybe they have some sort of reptilians, like whatever, right? If they have some stuff in there, if like I stand next to that and that stuff tries to get in, can't get in my field, and like that person is like feeling light pour into that energy, it becomes a powerful portal of transmutation, transfiguration. Your energy is gridding that environment, is gridding that room. You're actually retemplating sort of like the code into like, this is a structure of like the Christed emanation of this frequency. And like being able to address these things and look at these things and be able to look at different things that people are working with and not be afraid of it, and actually hold them in a place of like honor, like actually hold them in a place of reverence inside your heart, where you're like, wow, look at you. You're really working hard on this. This is very interesting. Trying to understand them, even if I don't agree with it, it crosses through that compassion, that energy crosses through boundaries. It crosses through layers of consciousness. And now real recognize real. You see each other in a way that otherwise could not be seen. And so I know I'm kind of feeling a little like out there in some of my posts and some of the things I'm saying lately, because a lot of people are on the horn about sovereignty these days. And they're all like, and their interpretation of sovereignty is like, get all the shit out of the field, fighting evil, get all the shit out, no acceptance of all these different distortions, all these things. And I'm sitting there going, no, we need to address those distortions like as like loving, sovereign, sacred pillars, not bypass, but like, I'm here. I'm holding it. I'm holding the field. I'm cool. I ain't scared of shit. What, you gonna talk shit about me? I don't give a fuck, bro. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna, some being's gonna try and attack me. I don't give a fuck. I'm fine. You know what I mean? And like that level of safety is like another, it balances the nervous systems, it balances the consciousness, it balances like the psyche, and it helps everyone feel okay. We're actually cool. All right, it's actually okay. And then like it's sovereign when it comes to the interdimensional beings and the things I'm kind of talking about in the back end that are kind of like the issue in the spiritual side.
The living embodiment, the warrior of light, the real warrior of light, like a lot of people have no idea that this is what's actually happening in the field. We're working with the holographic field, the fractal field. No one comes into your field by accident. So we're either being influenced by the field, or we're influencing the field. And that's what it would mean to carry a shield. I don't carry a shield like I need to protect. I'm operating at a frequency that means I pierce the veil anywhere that I go. And whatever and whoever is there was a part of that fractal field or that holographic geometry. And I mean, this work goes unnoticed. Talk about another level of not needing credit for anything, and like really being able to hold these fields in all humility. This is a pretty unseeable Guardians of the Galaxy type of configuration to come into the field, hold these templates. You're retemplating everything around you. It's cellular telepathy. This isn't about asking someone permission if you can do it or not. It's a fractal, it's a synchronicity field coming together. It's a monad. It's,
Their
you
higher
know,
self,
and
their higher self will dictate whether or not they consent. Yeah. So yeah.
yeah, it's predetermined on the highest level. That's the only level we operate at. Even the idea that there's a higher self versus a lower self is, well, that's the next level in embodiment, you know. And I always say embodiment is the healing chamber. So just one embodied being, like when people talk about healing med beds and things like that, it's like, no, embody the Christic codes. If there's anything you want to learn or heal, go there, directly connected to the source embodiment. What does that look like? How does that look like? When does that look like? Why does that look like? That's also predetermined. You wouldn't be looking for it if you weren't interested in it, if it wasn't a part of your template, you know. And then really when you start to hold that frequency field, that's what comes into your field at some level, whether you talk to them physically or not. Even if I went to happen to go to a town, which is rare, and a man left his phone and I went and connected it to him, like there's something much more deeper on a multidimensional level. And now you could even say he quantum leaped to another timeline, you know, kind of like a Mandela effect, and, you know, and has jumped timelines, and we'll bring that back to Spain, or, you know, it's like that.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting when it comes to the shields. Like, I understand what people say about the fear-based frequency, and like I like I'm literally sharing not to be afraid, right? So like I understand that could sound like a kind of like, you know, like opposite or hypocritical, but like what I see shields as like multiple things. I don't even think shield is necessarily the proper wording of it, right? Like setting up specific like structures inside my field to teach me, to mentor me, to actually like interface with specific frequencies. And I have found specific sacred geometries to actually help me step up my dimensional access, certain ones to help me like gain more access to specific things. So it's a bit of a mystical tradition that I have studied like with different practitioners, and then like created my own templates, purified templates, built out my own things, built out my own codexes, built out my own structures. And so it's part of kind of my, I guess I would say, magic, right? Like in a way to kind of like take things that already exist and then kind of like build an architecture out of them, and then like use it for a specific study based sort of thing, like a sort of like remapping, a restructuring, recoding type of thing. And so I do experience it, though, to be very effective and very useful when in denser environments. And so I guess that's the thing, that it's like a lot of spiritual people, like they'll be like, oh, I'm not afraid, but then they don't get out. You know what I mean? Like for me, it's like, oh no, I gotta go all over. Like I'm gonna be getting out, and I'm gonna be in tons of dense environments, like constantly. And I have to like negotiate that and cleanse my field rapidly and go and do things. Or like if I'm going to do session work on an individual, sometimes I'm doing session work on an individual who's in a really dark thing, like they've got interdimensional dark collectives or things going on. And like, so you have to kind of like, I've kind of learned to negotiate to handle those challenging frequencies. Like that's kind of like how I kind of built out like additional sort of layers. But I'm also aware that like my light body and my template is like building, you know what I mean? Like it's building so that those things aren't necessary. So it's like additional backing or additional structuring, like sort of like fortification, like to like a house or something like that. But then like eventually to come to a space where you don't need it. But like ultimately while I'm doing it, these things are kind of training, you know what I mean? Like training me to have the crystal emanations of like the crystal, like elements, or like Christed emanations of those things inside my field. And like, what's that feel like? You know what I mean? Like sort of like portaling those things inside my consciousness as a learning module. So I don't know. That's the way I practice. Some people might not totally agree with that frequency, but like it has worked for me to accelerate and speed up my sort of processing of data, of information. And then like when I go through dark nights of the soul, or when I go through experiences, learn it faster. You know what I mean? Like learn it, like things that could have taken days or weeks or months can be processed in minutes or seconds. You know, it's like boom. And then it's like, here's the pure access. Here's the actual truth. It's like, boom, we get to it. So.
Yeah, exactly. You can go in any field. This is the invincible field. And it's the ability to be able to bounce back, to hold anything, to go into any level of density, and to be able to digest that, process that, not hold that. I mean, there are times I've left spaces or particular configurations where I've needed to vomit after they go. And I understand, like, whoa, there's more that's in there than I can even put into words. And so it's different every time. But that is the ability to bounce back to zero, to get to the 0 point, to be able to go into fields, and like sometimes something might try to stick or something like that, and then it's like collapse the field, bring it back to zero, restart this thing again. You're always emanating, you're always in the 0 point. Your toroidal field of energy is in constant motion. You could say this is the Phinix frequency as well. When that fire is constantly lit and burning, you can see that like a shield. It's like there's just nothing that can stick. It like melts and burns anything away. But we're talking about that lion heart, that fire heart energy, that type of purification, celestial fire, purify, remove all desires kind of thing. And actually, I wanted to bring you back. You were talking about like interacting with being in Massachusetts and kind of New York frequencies. And I was remembering there was a dude that came here, and he was a geneticist from New York City. And I was like, I mean, for sure, he never met anybody like me over here, or my partner, just out of this world. But then like, I was like, can we sit down? Can we talk? I want to show you something about the genetics of the ACTG. I understand these 64 codons of DNA, and I understand that these 3 are the start codons, and this is the stop codon. And I learned all this through my mystical initiations in the gene keys.
Yeah.
But I wanted to see, can I talk to someone in the geneticist field that's very much more in the practical, rational, logical, physical material, and can I expand his awareness to the astrological, the neutrino imprint, the energetic field? Can we bridge spirit and science here? And I mean, it might take a little more of a substance to break it down fully, because there's always walls and limitations. However, we could put together the commonality of our language and from different sides. And so he learned his, getting his master's degree in who knows what, wherever, with doctorate or whatever. And I learned mine, with Mushrooms in the Cave with the Gene Keys book. But at the end of the day, they come together, and they must. And then that's that balance, and that's, I never like to say that one book is the book or anything like that. Although Revelations talks about there being a second book, the Book of Life. And I consider the possibility that the Gene Keys carries these mystery initiations, but they're not a mystery. They're available for any seeker, and can empower you with this Book of Life, epigenetics, learning your physiology, amino acids, and really healing from the inside with the emotional intelligence. Like, I've gone so far away from already going through that process that I forget how it took me from one level to another level in a very short period of time.
For sure. It's so interesting. I haven't gone as deep into the gene keys. My ex-partner Daniela did. So she definitely brought them up quite a bit. And then of course, like, I've seen stuff you post, other people post, everybody posts about the gene keys, looked in them a little bit. And then other people working with the 64 hexagonal grid for different other types of very advanced energy work. Yeah. And so it's definitely a theme, right? And then when I went back to college a few months ago, I went back to school to study really just medical sciences, to see if I was going to enter into those fields. And this is what I'm talking about, being in the dense environments. Like, that college building's super fucking dense. But like, so being in there, actually studying like the DNA, right? And it's very short, right? The amount of like how much we actually went through it in this class, right? I mean, it's a basic anatomy class, right? Like we're building into these structures, right? It's like biology and then anatomy 2, right? I mean, we go over everything, but like it's very fast and we can't go super deep. And so going into the DNA, going into the, sort of like individual codons, and going into the 64 codons, and then the structure of each of the 64 codons, and then like seeing it and being like, yep, it's all there. They actually know it. You know what I mean? And just like impressed, right, with like medical science, and then beginning to understand, right, like how the actual DNA is synthesizing proteins in order to build out the body through these codons, right, sort of like imprint into the actual, like essentially tell the cells to build all of these different, like, I guess, collagen, right, like different fibers, different bone, different structures, right, to actually build out your template. And so we become aware that like the DNA is telling, it's instructing, it's programming that reality into the physicality. And I guess that's where things get interesting, is like, how can you re like correct that current in the ways that it's shut off? How can you get the current to actually get the pure organic God source current? And then be aware that there are mystics and there are people who are actually altering the current in artificial ways too, with like sort of, I've seen that with some Kabbalists and things like that, but like getting it towards that 12 sphere tree of life, but even beyond like a sort of like fallen emanation of the 12 sphere tree of life, where some sort of like culty sort of like guru decides that they know better than everybody else and creates like a sort of like template that is kind of true. Like get to the actual thing and then get that to begin programming and mapping into the chromosomes and then building into the actual structure. And I think we need to hybridize it, right? Like we like not hybridize like in the sense of, whatever, blah, 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 but like hybrid, like we need to actually work with the medical science to get to that place, actually heal and correct the health issues, literally the physical body health issues. Like they can be corrected through spiritual science. Like they can be actually healed. And I've had massive success with that in different layers of my consciousness. And like, it's interesting, right? Because the judgment on both sides prevents that from occurring, but like they're actually totally related. They two sides of the same coin,
Damn, I'm so passionate about this. And if I just followed all of the Lisa Renee stuff and like the idea that the 64 or tropical astrology, it's all fallen, it's like, it's all of it. We have an entire planet of millions and billions. I have no idea what's really going on here. There are many cycles, there are many systems, there are many times. How do we get this into something that's easily translatable, that let's say the average person is going to want to learn about, to inspire themselves to build a template that's much further beyond a slave template, a two-strand slave template of illness and sickness and depression. And so it's you got to get into the mystic. There has to be something that's like, I want to live before all the life force is gone. There's some kind of force within, and it's like, okay, I'm not here to convince a scientist by any means, but I would love to. I mean, I'd smoke some DMT with a scientist and sit down and put some number, like, why not? Like, why not? Like, start to open up these gates and have these types of conversations and bridge these worlds and put together the physical. But the truth is, what we're missing is we're always solving everything from the physical material, and form follows frequency. The form is only the result of the frequency. We better learn this code. We better learn how to work in the frequency field. And so there are numerical codes, and then you go into these codons and it's like, oh, okay, you have codon number 8, and it's connected to your Chiron wound, what it is that you're here to heal. Well, from a scientist perspective, codon 8 is blah, 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 do, ACTG, blah, blah, blah. But then from a mystic's perspective, it's like, what this has to do with? It has to do with you living a mediocre life.
Right.
Where are you living in mediocrity? Where are you fitting into an old system? Where are you? The 8 is about freeing more free thinkers. It's about moving beyond the comfort zone. It's about breaking out of the typical, this is a Palladian code too. So it's like Palladian DNA. You can even start to play, but we don't need to get too crazy, because we want mass consciousness awakening. It's like, if we can really like put ourselves in a little tiny little, like there's just 5 avatars or something, versus like, we want as many avatars and mastered Christos as fucking possible on Earth as soon as possible, please.
Exactly. Well, and there's a challenge with the numbers, right? Because math it's designed to organize and structure what already exists, right? It's designed to sort of like tell us about the templates, but like 8 for me, it has like a different context, right? Like it's like higher heart, right? And it's sort of like the thymus gland, and like, sort of like the expansion of like the higher heart into the monadic levels of consciousness, and the access into like, you know, myself loving myself across all my lives, like all my different dimensional existences simultaneously, which is such an interesting thing for people who are stuck in more of the soul matrix, who haven't gotten into the monadic or sort of oversoul layers of consciousness. They're looking around at people who are experiencing interdimensional experiences with past lives, with timelines, with elementals, with dragons, with fairies, with ETs, and they're like, oh, you guys are crazy, it's all just about planet Earth, it's all just about these bird signs. Like, that's very true at that stage of consciousness. And it's still true as you evolve in higher stages of consciousness, just you add more context to it, you add more layers on top of it. And so these additional layers is that you're weaving your all of time exists simultaneously. And so you have to love yourself across all of it, and you have to heal your wounds of all these other traumas. You have to kind of enter into that. And then, like, my experience through that is, as you heal your heart, right, your sort of higher heart, which the sphere is here, then it makes it possible for you to heal all the other spheres. It's almost like the most important one, like the first one you got to do. Otherwise, you try and face your womb shit with your heart broken, it's gonna fucking hurt. You know what I mean? Like, it's so hard to deal with. Like, and so that's why there's so much breath work, so much heart-based breath work. And so I'm interested when it comes to the gene keys, like, is that 8 still a heart-based thing, or it's totally different? It's like this is the whole structure of like the 64 grid, and it's like a different kind of 8.
Well, it's very heart-based, because the whole way that the gene keys is written, it's like there's the shadow dimension, and you start to really see, like, I base it on the premise that we decided to come down here, that we even configured ourselves, and that we are master geneticists within ourselves. It's not like someone created us and we were just born into their thing. It's like, we're like, all right, we're coming down, and these are some of the keys and the codes. And so when it comes to that intersection in that moment in time, those certain key configurations, that language learning model, those numerical codes will start to come into my presence to unroll the scrolls, so to speak, to unlock the higher purpose in the DNA. So then there's the shadow frequency, and you start to, like, just the simple awareness of it, helps you see your emotional pattern, repressed, reactive. And that seems to be the big gate that everyone's got to go through. It's a mutation of the emotions, a victim of the emotions, the whole thing. Like, to really come into emotional mastery, I say it like it's easy, as it should be. I'm not sure why it is so hard. I'm not sure why we do keep holding on to the idea of emotions and trauma, when we remember that we are celestial origin, eternal immortal beings. We're not really playing little games. And it's like, I can hold compassion and patience for everyone's free will, and also we hold this divine intervention field of, like, all right, when are we going to get to this? When are we going to come into that mastery? When are we going to hold it? So then the gift level is the open heart frequency. And of course, it's like, there's nothing wrong with the shadow. You gotta go there. You gotta see it. Once you see the shadow, you swallow it up. And now it's like swallowing the sun. And all of a sudden now the sun is coming up. Like, there is no denying it. And that's the level that we've got to come to in this moment. Because I'm meeting so many beautiful, like, medicine people. They have a lot of knowledge. They know about all the prophecies, but there's still, sometimes we think we've done all of our work, but we haven't. And, to be able to really come in with powerful masters without any egos, no judgment, we don't need to heal each other, because we all did it. We all did it. That's one thing I like to do when I do work in a medicine space. It's like, I'm just welcoming another avatar home. I'm not a healer. I'm just like, you did it. We did it. We're here. We remember. It just like, it busted all open. Talk about, like, you never have to heal generational trauma again, because we just arrived to Shambhala.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because everything exists simultaneously at once: the past, the present, the future, and the parallel. So, like, yes, the version of you that's already mastered this is with you. It's already in the field, right? And that's what people are trying to allude to when they talk about a higher self, is this awareness that there's like a future or sort of like resolved version of yourself, or perhaps like in an oversoul consciousness, like existing outside of time, like, or a unified state of that in the avatar consciousness. You can kind of fractalize it into all these different layers, like up and up and up into the dimensional layers, to try and get to these higher articulations of like more powerful selves. And they can be super useful in session work, ceremony work, particularly when things get hard, like things get really challenging. But the awareness that you are that, it's already here, it's already present, it's already portaling through your consciousness. It's like it's the there, it's the consciousness that's looking through the eyes, like you're just remembering who you are, you know. And so my brother Ty, I've been working with him lately. Ty Hadnall, shout out Ty Hadnall. But you know, he is, you know, he's kind of got like a fun way of doing things, a little different than some other people I've worked with. But, you know, he talks about it just like, I mean, he says all kinds of things. This is one thing he said, but like, he was just like, you know, I'm just trying to trick people into remembering that they already know. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to show them that like they already got it. You know what I mean? Like it kind of is, and that's kind of what mysticism is. And trick has a trickster connotation that makes it bad. So I'm not trying to say like there's no trickery towards like any sort of darkness or some sort of like bad place that you don't want to go. And I think that's the thing about trustworthy energy, right? Is like when an individual is truly trustworthy, they are a person who, one, is humble, right? Like they're willing to admit to their faults, they're willing to admit to their failures or whatever. And like they want to know, like they want to know about whatever the problems are. Like, hey, tell me, you know what I mean? Like, I got some shit on my face. Like, tell me about some shit on my face. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying, you know? But like, not just that, you know, I'm sorry I had this narcissistic little booger, you know, so like pick that shit, you know, I'm just kidding. But like, like you want to know, right, about like the things. So that's one thing. It's a person who's working on themselves. But then also like trustworthy is like, because trustworthiness is a big thing. I think it is important. You know, it's like you believe everyone's trustworthy until you get fucking burned. And then you're like, all right, like discernment is a thing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to be wounded or fearful out here, but like also like not every facilitator has everyone's best interests at heart, you know? And so like it's that, right? It's that kind of like, is this person working through their things actively, like a member of the tribe, and then like not above everybody else. And then like also the other thing is like, are they a perpetual student? Are they learning? Like, and not just learning about their trauma, about, you know, healing wounds or like whatever. Like everything is going to keep remapping and evolving. None of these templates, none of these systems are fully complete. That's my experience. Even the Ashiana Dean, Lisa Renee stuff. I can't speak for Richard Rudd's stuff. I have heard some things that kind of are like, maybe his astrology is just like, you know, a little bit more topical than it is sidereal or whatever. I don't know. I don't want to speculate. I didn't study it. I'm not the guy, right? But like, it's always going to keep upgrading because the people who brought that through at that time were at a certain level of consciousness. Now the field has more access to it. And in 10 years, oh my God. And in 20 years? And so like, you know, and that's kind of the thing that's interesting too, when you go and you look at like old mystery school Kabbalists and you're like, oh, their 10 sphere tree of life is so evil and so fun. It's like, that's all they had, guys. The 12 sphere tree of life hadn't downstepped yet. Like it was broken. They had a broken fallen system to work through. Of course, they got sucked into an indoctrinated cult of some sort of fuckery because they had a partial piece of the template with the head chopped off. Like, that's all they had, you know? And like, that means every single sphere on that tree is distorted. Like the whole tree, like my experience of the whole tree is like every sphere has to sing to each other. Otherwise, each sphere is incomplete. So like, you chop off the head of the tree, every lower sphere has the distortions of not having the head of the tree to speak to it. You know, which means it's broken, it's fragmented. And so like being aware though, that they worked with sacred geometries, they worked with mysticism, they worked with all these different archetypal frequencies. They had power to them. They had actually real gnosis and abilities. They just had a certain percentage of distortion and infection in that field. And I think we would be very unwise to believe that we have fully transmuted all distortion and infection out of the spiritual systems that we use currently. Like, we're just at a higher template. It's just more Christ. It's just more, it's closer. It's way closer. but it's not the full thing. And so that's where kind of the hero's journey, it also empowers everybody and gives everyone a chance. Everyone has a part of this game. It's not done. Yeshua didn't just come in and just save us all. Like, you know, like there's more to be done, and these beautiful children are going to do the work that we don't do. Like there's an epic quest that's still unfolding, and like I'm excited for the templates upgrading, you know?
Yeah, it's all about purification and purity. You can't deny a pure heart. It makes me think of Aladdin. You know, it's like all of them are trying to get into the temple with all of the gold, but the only one that can get in is the peasant that has the pure heart. And it's like, you can't fuck with purity. If there is nothing else on your plate but a pure heart's intent in everything that you do, zero ulterior motives, zero personal importance, like those are the real gateways that give you access to the true templates. Now, who is the one that gets to decide if someone's actually living pure and true? I've had many women call themselves the divine mother in my face that don't feel so divine.
Yeah.
And I can see right through it. And that goes to discernment too. It's not about what you call yourself.
Yeah.
It's not about who you say you think you are. It's about what it feels like when I'm sitting in your presence. My energetic field will read you and will know for sure. Yeah. And so it's like, trust your discernment and trust your intuition. And there was a time, you know, I felt like after my near death and then moving to this location, this portal, I ascended, and then I met my divine counterpart. We literally just like, we ascended to heaven. I thought we'd never return. It's just fireworks and gold and pearls and glitter and all of the love of that and the orgasm and the ecstasy and the union of that. And then it was like, okay, no one else is here.
Yeah.
So then what? And then it was like, okay, come down the ladder, come down that stairway to heaven. And it's like, where do we meet and greet? Oh, everyone's stuck at about the sacral. Yeah. And it's sex and emotions, you know, it's lower nature desires. It's like, so the purification. So I understand the idea of meeting in baby steps, 10, 12, this, that, 8, whatever. It's like something where you're for the ones that are truly willing to do the real work. Don't get too caught up in then wanting to be the poster child of it.
Right.
Because I see I see the Hollywood shamans, I see what people are calling themselves, but they're not living it and feeling it. And so we've got to get so pure in ourselves that we have the ability to discern the false. And also it's like, I don't want to say they're a false light. I want to say they're on their way.
It's partial.
And I want to say they've got some blind spots.
Yeah.
And the biggest misunderstanding is thinking that you're already there and holding. And how I know you're not is if you're needing to be seen and worshipped or bowed down to.
Right. Well, and like if it like I understand the warrior energy. I understand the calling out the issues. Like I get it, and it's necessary. And don't get me wrong, I can get real fucking ruthless, like in the field energetically, not with people. With people, I'm kind, but like I get it, and it gets addictive. It's an addiction, you know, and I see it. I see some people, they get excited about the amount of people who are just like, yeah, we're fighting the good cause. We're fighting all the evil. We're fighting all the bad in the world. And it's like, but what about the healing? Like, you're just going to tell all these people they suck. And then what? What are we supposed to do with that? Like what? They don't have redemption? Like, someone's just decided they were better than everybody else because they have some spiritual templates and they have some systems and tools that work for them, and like everybody else sucks now. Like, no, that's not how this works. Like, you know, and it actually shows superiority inferiority complex that's going inside that person's consciousness, which is a pendulum, which actually means they think they're inferior. Right? Like they actually are comparing themselves to other people in a competition-based game. So that structure is actually in itself, it's compromised. Like it's not even like the true structure. And so like to say like I'm better than everybody else is compromised is like, come on, like that we have to work through these layers, like we like, and I look at the soul, and so it's like I look at the soul who's in the mystery school lineage, who has a pure heart, who's trying to figure out their shit, and I don't go, you gross bad. Oh no, look at you, you're so bad, you chose the wrong path. Look at me, I'm better, I chose the better path. Fuck that shit. No, I look at that person and I go, you got a pure heart, you're going to purify this template, you're going to help everybody around you, and eventually you might have to leave or the template will upgrade. Either this system will upgrade because you're in it, or you'll have to leave this system. But like, regardless, like, you're on your hero's journey path, and for some reason, part of your soul was called here. Probably because you have some sort of relationship with these people across lifetimes. Probably because you did some sort of partial iteration of this work at some point. Who am I to judge you for doing this work? Who am I to judge you for working with whatever gods or goddesses or deities that you think are the right path initially? There's a reason why you're called to them. I personally don't, but I'm also aware that they're in the field. I'm totally aware they're in the field. And they exist, and they are influencing reality. I just don't call them in because I work with different things, but like, that doesn't make me better than you. It's just different style. It's just different, it's a different way of doing it. You know what I mean? Like, and I sometimes need that person's medicine who works with something that I don't, who works with something I don't understand. Like, I need like that. Like, it's been a huge theme with the feminine lately, to be honest. Like, I mean, when I'm by myself, I'm like Solar Christ Magi fucking bro. Like, I just go hard as fuck. Like, I'm just doing pull-ups and running and doing tons of session ceremony work and just alone and just going, you know what I mean? And then I get around women and I'm like, oh my God, I can be myself. I feel comfortable. I feel better again. Like this is fun. We're having fun again. Like, I forgot to have fun. Like, okay, thank God I can have fun again. You know what I mean? Like, and then like reintegrate that. And then I go do a yoga teacher training. I'm finishing up this yoga teacher training this weekend. And then it's like, oh, and the sort of like, this sort of just like gentleness, the sort of stretching, the sort of going into the poses, the yin yoga, the sort of melting into your body and sort of allowing yourself to integrate and like downstepping the codes that way. And then I have an epic shavasana where I multidimensionally travel and speak to all these, whatever, right? Blah, 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 blah. I have all these epic things happen. It's like, because of this beautiful, very feminine practice. Like this is like it, and it's different than me going doing calisthenics and doing pull-ups until my arms are fucking huge. Like, it's a different thing. Both of those have their strength. Like I want to be strong and jacked so I can handle the challenges of life. I have health issues. I want my body to be strong in my immune system, but I also don't want to be so, like, I don't want to push myself in the fight or flight because I always have to get up and go fucking run a few miles. Like, I need to relax my nervous system too, and like, so that's where these different spiritual traditions, like, even some of like the more feminine, like sort of like beauty way, kind of like goddess tribes, like stuff like that. Like, I'm just like, damn, like, you guys got something. Like, there's definitely something going on there that like we all could learn from, you know what I mean? Like, and like, I want to honor their peace. I don't want to be condescendingly saying, because I think I know better, because I work with this Lisa Renee template and I learned something about these goddesses, or I something in the field, or, so-and-so said something about Thoth. I fucking go like this. Fuck that.
We got to stay open, and we got to meet the reality where it is. Again, we're looking for bringing as many people over a bridge, so to speak, as possible. The thing for all of us, regardless of what we study, teach, practice, or feel we know, is that we are kind, approachable, humble, equal, that we can communicate with each other with open hearts. And really, my prayer is that any that are still holding any levels of egoic nature, or let's say superficial, in all communities, but it's in the feminine community, it's in a lot of the spiritual community, unfortunately. There's this level of something, whatever you want to call it, that needs to get clean so people can actually fucking hug each other and see each other as equal brothers and sisters. I hold a field like that. Like, I want my family together. It's like, it's spiritual Thanksgiving. Bring everybody around the table and let's like break some bread with each other. What are the things? What are the walls? What are the perceptions like that are keeping us from, like, we all just want connection. And that's individual basis work, you know, that everyone's got to do. But I think that's one of the woundings that's needing to be healed in what are called spiritual communities, that it isn't actually so welcoming. There is something a little cultish about it, and or unfortunately superficial. And it's pretty much in all of them. And
you can play along. If you play along, you can play, you know?
Yeah. And I'm not and I want to go into every time I go anywhere, I think I'm about to meet the masters of the universe, creators of Atlantis, the original stars. And then you get there and you're like, damn, okay. You know, you meet it where it's at, but like, we are the founders. Like, we're holding these fields of remembrance so that we can invite other people into those fields. You can't impose them on anyone anyway. And resonance just works like this, right? And this is why maybe I know I've dropped in the idea of working with medicine sometimes. And I sit on this, like, this is something I judge sometimes. I'm like, the pure straight path. You don't need anything. Eat super clean and fast and all of it. And I do eat pretty clean and all of those things. But like, I still believe in the power of breaking your perception of reality in responsible ways. And sometimes I feel like those are the times where you can start to reconfigure templates with a mutual field that can't, because there's just so much reservation. And even when you think you don't have it, you have it, whether in the mental or in the heart.
A lot of my, I mean, it's weird because I haven't really had like clients in a traditional sense, but you know, the people I've done session work for, like those people, like a lot of them had nightmares with medicines, you know, or cold.
Really?
And so like, I was often the dude like fixing some shit after some shit went really fucked up. You know what I mean? Like,
wow.
But then I have people that I've done session work on where they use medicines and it's totally fine. Actually, it was amazing. Actually, it was exactly what they needed. You know what I mean? Right. And like, they totally figured it out. Like they totally resolved some stuff, healed some stuff. And sure, they faced darkness inside of those realms. They just knew how to be sovereign when they were moving through the quantum and they were able to handle it. You know what I mean? Like they didn't consent by some fear or some sort of lust or some sort of distorted frequency. They didn't have some cult leader, shaman who was in the field singing a bunch of things, chanting a bunch of things that no one knew that they were consenting to, or like someone who was trying to sleep with all the girls through giving them medicine, or, you know, some woman who's like, I don't know, has some serious daddy issues trauma that hates men. You know what I mean? And you go do her ceremony as a man. It's like, that's not fucking safe. Right?
Oh, wow, you're just laying it down. It's exactly right. It's like, it looks so fancy out there and you think you're about to know. And that's why.
And it's not to say that woman shouldn't have stuff she's transmitting. It's totally fine. It's fine to be a practitioner who's transmitting things. I do want to say that. Like, I'm okay with that. I'm even okay with partial experiences being somewhat helpful and being somewhat harmful too. But it's just to say, like, I mean, I'm not okay with it, but I understand that it happens, right? I understand it's part of the discernment journey of souls. You know what I mean? Like that they need to go through challenging experiences to learn. But I actually, with the feminine, that is an interesting thing. Yeah, we'll touch that in a second. We'll talk about the other things and then, yeah.
But I mean, this is a big topic. This is a big topic on all levels. Cause I'm sitting on the cusp of this. I'm like, I have seen, for me personally, and I just work very casually one-on-one. I don't do business of any sort. I think that's another thing that is tainting the space is the business of medicine. I mean, as honestly, this is why I can't look away at psychedelics, because my whole last 8 years in the cave, I went through a swirl of literally, my name's Alicia, like Alice in Wonderland, kind of going down the rabbit hole. First coming here and being like, someone offered me mushrooms and MDMA when I first got here in this family conscious community. And I'm like, what's MDMA? And they were like, ecstasy. And I was like, we got to get the fuck out of here. These people are on drugs. So that was me 8 years ago, to now having experienced some of these things in more casual settings, actually never in shamanic practices or rituals, all in my own self-initiatic path, including when my husband did ayahuasca and he left the ceremony and he came and found me. That was my real first medicine woman journey, you could say, where I'd never taken a mushroom, and the next thing you know, I'm sitting down with my husband on medicine. The shaman doesn't even know he's gone, and I'm ushering in whatever is happening here with him, because he said she told him to come to me, and I'm like, who is she? And understanding plants and she's and he's and all the things, it's been quite a mystery for me to understand why people don't go to the holy heavens when they take psychedelics, because that's the only place I go. It's Divine Mother every time. So I'm open. Actually, the scorpionic design of myself and wanting to know the depths of the psyche from the light to the dark is like, what is it that determines why someone goes into a psychosis, or why someone goes into machine elves, or why someone's getting worked on by mantis beings versus the cosmic Christos? Because that's the only place that I ever go, is ascended cosmic Christ, Divine Mother, Sophia. It's like, wow, there's just so many levels to this. And of course, like, you could say that people are working with their astral planes, and there are people passing around parasites and predator types of energies and vampire types energies where they're getting power from this. Maybe they've even made agreements with the shamanics, with the tribes. Like, not everything is as pure as it seems, actually. Right. I would much rather be sitting in a casual environment with someone that's open to do psychedelics versus like appointing someone into a more important position and having like cosmic conversations and just like, I always just say, I call in the Mother, the Father, and the Holy Mother, the Holy Father, and the Holy Child, Sacred Trinity, which is who we are and what we represent. And I trust that the will of God be done here, and then I just see what happens there. But no, things are getting passed around. We were talking one time offline about the black snake of ayahuasca that I've seen, because I've met so many people that have done it so many times, but it doesn't feel like they're embodying the mystical state. Like, how do we bring the dance down, but then also not being insensitive to the idea that people are having horrific types of experiences?
Right. Well, I think, you're entering into the fields. So it's just a level of awareness that as soon as you take a sort of DMT like substance, or, these other psychedelics do it to a certain degree, right? They have the different ways that they do it, different access points into the field. They access different dimensional layers of, sort of the consciousness. And you're getting to this super elevated state in this side of yourself, which it's almost like if you're mixing and mastering music, like you're bringing up a frequency super high, and then you're lowering the other frequencies in your consciousness. You're not going to pay attention to them as much. You're going to pay attention more to this high frequency, this sort of high pitch tone, but it's like at a specific angle, right? Whatever that angle is that this thing's kind of tapping into. But I personally haven't done ayahuasca. I've done other medicines, right? I've done other things. I've done a lot of session work on people who've done ayahuasca, and I've looked into it in the grids, and I've kind of studied it interdimensionally and like spoken to it like as sort of like an energy work practitioner. Like, you can reach out to any consciousness, any construct, and be like, what are you, but I also haven't done it. Right. So, there's like a disclaimer there that like, I'm going to share from my perception, but my perception is not going to be the full articulation, right? Because like, obviously someone who has gone through it is going to have more experiential wisdom in that. Now, but my understanding of it, right, is that once you get into the fields, now what's around you? Now you're in the realms. Now you get to experience what it's like to have a super elevated consciousness that now can access all these different things. So you have your chakras very open, right? Your crown chakra and your higher dimensional chakras are super open. Like, and so you're going to just see the there. And if that's what's inside of you, that's what's inside of the people in the room, that's what's inside of the nature around you. If you're in a jungle, it's very different than if you're in a city, right? If you're, if you're near the ocean, it's very different, right? Like there's different places where that lesson is going to be different. Like the sort of actual dimensional structures, like frequency, like you might connect with some mermaids if you're like near the ocean, right? Versus like if you're deeper in the woods, like you might connect with some sort of more forest-like elemental beings, right? Some elves or something like that. If you're in a like there's so many different factors that will correlate, kind of to what are the dimensional frequencies that are on top of you right now, and then what's already in your consciousness, what's already in your structure. Now, the idea is that technically you could face down anything, and what we're talking about, right? Ground, 0 point it, resolve the conflict, go back out and live your life with an upgraded consciousness, even if it was the most hellish of the hell experiences. And I've had those. Like, you could resolve that inside yourself and then go and live your life, right? The problem is when a person gets, like, the trauma is the unintegrated experience. And so the person had this super interdimensional experience that now they don't know how to handle. They don't understand the context of it. And perhaps someone in that room, whether it was the facilitator, whether it was their own consciousness, whether it was something they called into the field or something, had some sort of interdimensional domination-based agenda, right? And now this person's template is different, right? And like now they're running with like implants and structures. That stuff can all be removed very easily and efficiently by someone. Like, I could do it, you know what I mean? Like, and you could do it. Like, it's just understanding sovereignty. It's just understanding, natural laws of creation, the law of consent, how to remove shit from your field, right? Like, you can do it. And so like that, but the ayahuasca could be a tool to go access that stuff and go do it yourself too, right? And if you know how to do it, you could go do it yourself too through that medicine, right? And like, it's a more embodied kind of experience too, because it's kind of portaling it into your body. It's like more moving it through. It's going to cause you to purge. It's going to cause you to actually get the physical infection out, right? So like, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, it's so case to case. It's like so set and setting. It's so case to case. It's so intentional, and it's so based off whoever's facilitating. What magic are they doing? What are they putting into this? And like, what is your reasoning? And I think if you do treat it right, I mean, from what I've seen, like, people are having epic level growing, healing experiences. Like, they're really shifting and changing and catalyzing growth. I think it's just that it's what you're describing with this kind of like consumerism based, sort of like combined with the guru structure, right? The kind of like hustler guru, right? Being the ayahuasca facilitator in the ceremony. And then that person calls in some archangels in the field and some blah, 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 blah ass magic. And then we're in a weird ass fucking realm, like, it just alters everything from the very genesis of the intention of why you started and how they made the medicine, to what they called into the field, to the songs they sang, to like it's somehow structuring some other template that, well, you're in the dimensional realms, now you get to see that template, and then you have to somehow integrate what the fuck that was. I hope it doesn't sound like I'm promoting fear here. I mean, I don't want people to be afraid. Like I do want people to know that like your sovereignty is the most important thing. Like, if you enter into any sort of interdimensional experience, whether it's a near-death experience, whether it's you're in some session work, you're in a dark place, you're in a temple space, you go to freaking Egypt, you're in some, not all those temples are super fucking pure, guys. Like, you go, they're actually very dark in a lot of ways. Like, if you go into, not all of them, some of them, if you go into, some sort of whatever that becomes challenging, right? It's like the most important thing is that you stay you got to like keep like, and I always say to people, if anything goes wrong, actually, this is like one of the most important, like if when all else fails, breathe into your heart. That's it. Like all the mysticism, all the magic, everything's broken, nothing's working, nothing that, like, just get back to you, get back to your heart, get back to God. And that's it. And you can always do that in any interdimensional space. So just to be aware, like, even if some shit's wonky as fuck, like, you go, all right, like, I guess that's the lesson here, what not to do, but I'm still me. So I'm okay.
Yeah, no, there's so much. I don't think this is a fear thing. I think it's important that we talk about it because there's so much of an awakening around it. Things are really coming out through the psychotherapy, through pharmacy, like everything's going pharmaceuticalized. And like, I mean, they're going to be throwing it out. Next thing you know, your grandma's going to want to try mushrooms.
She's going
It's
to be
like,
doing ketamine.
I say no to ketamine. Absolutely. It's one thing I haven't tried ketamine, and I hear clear demon possession. I know some people have had good experiences with it, but like and yet I believe in MDMA, which is a synthetic, but I've only seen it as a truth serum. I've only, in my own direct experience of myself and anyone I've worked with, what I have witnessed in the field is someone being able to come clean in their template, and someone being able to open their heart fully, and someone being able to say the things that they've never been able to say before, right? And I haven't seen I guess everything is different, and it's all within your own consent. And I think it's all, but we shouldn't not talk about it, and we shouldn't just cast everything out, because there's so much curiosity in this field. And what I guess I'm learning, and living in Costa Rica for so many years and being around a lot of community and a lot of people that are serving medicine and kind of understanding how they're living and things like that, it's like maybe I'm coming out of the closet with my own, life path about, and even feeling a responsibility that there are other fields to hold in these types of medicine spaces that are more authentic, less ceremony ritual like.
Yeah.
Still very sacred.
Well, you live your life that way. So I don't see you as a person, that like you wake up, you're always in the flow, you're in ceremony. I'm like that too, right? Like
exactly.
Yeah, so like other people are going to be like, oh, I need to set the space, and maybe that is important for them. Maybe they're so in their mind and they're in their chat, they got all these things to do, and they got all this different stuff they got to do to try and get present, right? And I'm not saying that's wrong, but like with like you, it's like you're already so present, you're already in the magic. This is just adding another layer to it, right? Like yeah, I mean, I really actually do think it is important for people to kind of know, like, that's kind of what trauma is, though, from my understanding. And some of that actually does come from like study of psychologists, and like Dr. Jordan Peterson in particular had some really wise words on trauma. I do resonate with some of his work, but like he just said, like, it's an unintegrated experience. Like he's like, something happened. Usually you had some sort of interaction with something that was truly nefarious, was truly malevolent, like something that was actually really dark, and you were innocent. And then something came in and showed you something, oftentimes broke your boundaries, and showed you something fucked up, like showed you like the really dark side of life, like something really hard. And so that could be, right, like witnessing death, rape, all those various different things, but also interdimensional experiences of having multidimensional things do stuff to you that you don't want, that you don't know how to deal with. And like but the lesson is like, if you can integrate that trauma, and you can come back to you, and you can crystallize yourself, you can crystallize your field, you can crystallize the different levels of your consciousness, like you can turn anything into gold. The worst of the worst, the most fucked up. All right. Like I personally, I'll tell you something vulnerable. I have an ileostomy bag. I had my large intestine removed. That's what set me on this spiritual path in 2014. Right. And that's why I work with doctors and I work with the modern medical system. I got no way out of it. I have to get medical supplies to survive. Right. And so, yeah, but I'm also a grid worker. So I travel around the fucking, and like have to ship stuff. There's all these additional logistics that have to occur for me to be able to bridge across worlds and not be a person who's just like stuck in my house fucking sick, but I'm also like doing calisthenics, training fucking hard when I get sick, because I'm like, no, I'm not going to be fucking sick. No, I have no time for this. And my body's like, all right, we're healing. That's what we're doing. I've learned how to transmute. I've learned how to, like, on a level that's so fucking deep, you know what I mean? Because of the wound. Rumi, the wound is where the light enters you, right? And so this assisted me in actually accessing and healing the fragmentation of my sort of undigested energies, my issues with digestion, digesting emotions, digesting relationships, digesting challenging situations. I had issues with that. I was angry, I was raged. That's why I was inflamed, right? That's why I also seeked out experiences that were so not me. I was so not myself. That's what manifested the sickness, right? And so it's like you break it. You break the template, you shatter it. There's another dude I love, David Goggins, right? He says, like, you don't study something in a normal environment. No, you put it in a petri dish, you freeze it, you heat it up, you put it in a centrifuge, and you split apart the different molecules, and you look at the layers of it. And that's in a lot of ways what this weird traumatic human experiences is. 144 in the time. It's we're coming here to actually experience the split, the fragmentation, to understand the structure. It's actually a master architect sort of template. It's to go into this and to actually understand the architectures of reality, because we know what it's like when it doesn't work. It's like the ultimate training module in a way, like to actually go through having it broken apart and then rebuild it from the base up, and actually do it across all these different lifetimes, and do it with all these opposing forces that are trying to press you down, and all these victim-victimizer complexes, and all these different things that are like fucking up your shit. You fix that template and you resolve yourself, and you become like so powerful, like on a level that's like immense. Like imagine that, like to become like a 12th avatar on Earth or above. You have to be so fucking powerful, so sovereign. Like, it's not, oh, I became that out in like, some little beautiful desert island planet. I did it on a planet where everyone was trying to fucking stop me.
That is the fucking invitation. Avatars unite. Let's go. 12D and beyond. We don't settle for anything less. We're not giving this planet up. That's what it feels like as you say that. It's like, come on, avatars, every single one of you rise up. 144, 144,000, not the chosen one, but the one who chooses to lay it down, to serve the mission, to rise it up, to hold the field of this level of integrity and service. And of course, there's a healing that has to take place in the inner planes. The greatest healing of all that needs to be taken is that we forgot that we're one with God. It's like, it's that simple. And it's like, when you remember that for real, all that is left to do is embody it. And that means those final levels of shame, blame, complain, deny, inadequacy, not good enough, whatever the stories are, those are the final traumas, and you're just sweeping through them and you're like loving them through it. But we're not here to repeat this stuff. And it's like quantum leaps. Like, I believe instantaneously, I know because it happened to me, that I went from knowing nothing to having x-ray vision. I went from believing in vaccines and circumcisions to seeing the whole thing and being like, whoa. And then, you helped me have a sensitivity to the idea that you still need that thing that I might call a demon, the Grey's Anatomy, like. So it helps me remember we have to balance it and bring it together and not deny it's a part of our world.
If it were to shut down tomorrow, like the modern medical system, the amount of people that would die would be catastrophic. And you could say that's because some people are hooked on it for illegitimate reasons, and some people actually do need the things. So my friend who has cystic fibrosis, like, take away his medication. See what the fuck happens to him. So the light worker tribe people were like, shut down the medicine system, big pharma's evil. And I'm sitting there going, tell that to him. He wouldn't be alive right now. You know what I mean? Like, it's different. Like, for some people, like, and so like, that's a different type of template. That's a different type of transmutation story, right? It's a different journey. And like, to find sovereignty inside of that, right? To find sovereignty inside of like something where you are actually codependent on something. Like, I have future surgeries looming. You know what I mean? I have the best fucking doctor, best fucking surgeon in like Boston, Massachusetts, like leaders of their divisions, working at Harvard, all that stuff, right? And so it's interesting to study them. I feel like I'm actually there to study them, right? Like, I'm this high dimensional light worker who, like, I'm kind of undercover in a way, but also simultaneously I pick up some game. I actually learn things from them, because they're in some ways, like, especially my surgeon, who's a woman, she freaking moves that hospital around. She is a boss. Like, she is just like, and she's so funny and so like creative, and she's like cutting edge in her thing, and she's saving lives, and like she kind of just doesn't give a fuck about like other people's stuff. Like she's just kind of moving fast and just getting shit done all day every day. I'm just like, damn, give me some of that. You know what I mean? Like give me some of that sauce. Like, and she teaches at Harvard, you know what I mean? So like she's a teacher, you know, she does this. And like for me as like a kind of like mystical dude, like, you know, who's like I'm learning from it, you know? So like I like a little bit of like a nuanced approach that, you know, like I can sit there and say, while I'm there, I can see this fucking grid. I can see this shit. I can see the beings here. Oh, it feels dense as fuck in this room. And that's why I described the shielding that I'm running. Because I'm in that fucking room. Tell me I shouldn't be. Like, if I'm on the brink of death, I shouldn't go into the hospital. Right? Tell me that. And then tell me I should go in that room and just get covered in fucking shit when I know how to shield myself. Of course I'm not going to do it. You know what I mean? And like in a way, I'm building my body, I'm building my light body, I'm building my template. It's just a different way to do it. It's just a different structure. And it's not necessarily better or right. And I think that's like what I want to kind of like promote these days. It's just this awareness that it's not about it being better or right. It's just like, it's almost like we all just had to figure out how the fuck to handle our shit. Like every human just had to figure it out somehow. Like it's just, we all have these weird challenges. Like we just have to figure, like you, like having to leave your children, right? Like that's challenging. That's super freaking challenging, right? Like that's, you know, but like that's sacrifice. And because of your sacrifice, also God and like the guardian teams are going to look at you and be like, she's our girl. She's willing to do the work. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's not about them, like guardian teams, or I don't know what your connections or perception are, but like that's been my experience with some people. You know, I know some people who be super hyper pure with their sexuality, right? Like to a degree where they're suppressing themselves, but then also simultaneously, the universe is saying this person is sacrificing to be pure. She's amazing. You know what I mean? Like, look at her really trying, really doing the work. And maybe there's a little frustration inside, but also like, holy shit, this person really fucking cares. You know what I mean? Like that person who's going to run uphill, like, and just like fucking grind to go do the ceremony and do their vision quest out in the woods. Like, and they're fasting. Like some of these like shamanic people around me, they do like vision quests and stuff for their rites of passage and coming of age when they're like 18, right? They do huge fasting and then they go out in the night and then they have to go like in track and like climb up this mountain in the middle of the night type shit, right? And it's like a huge like thing for this child to like grow into who they are. And this girl was doing it. It's not just boys, it's girls and boys. And there's a power to pushing herself. Maybe she pushed herself. Maybe someone pushes themselves in ayahuasca ceremony. Maybe someone pushes themselves in traveling to the odd place that's really hard for them to go. Maybe someone pushes themselves in doing and choosing the truth when everybody says fuck no. Maybe someone pushes themselves when the cop is busting down their door saying, I'm going to take your babies. Or maybe they're pushed themselves when, you know, me, mentor fucking becomes a nightmare and I have to fucking handle that shit. You know? But like we push ourselves and we handle and we resolve that stuff. And then the universe is like, all right, cool. Like this person is willing to show up. And I think there's a lot of ways to do it. And I want to honor all the ways. And I don't want to say the one way is the only way or is the best way, because then we're just basically like the fucking Christians.
Yeah, we don't need to be too dogmatic with anything. We shouldn't be forcing anything on anyone. I am certainly a template of like, you better listen to yourself. You better find yourself in there. You better heal yourself in there. You better identify. And actually, we talked a little bit about implants earlier. And I do believe like the idea of removing implants is one of the keys to this future. You could call it also demon slaying, casting out demons, whatever configuration you want to put it in. There is a bit of non-physical and physical implants that are taking place. Implants in our thought forms, implants in our beliefs, implants in our sacral chakra, implants in our mental constructs. You know, we have to, what we're really doing is we're rewriting the framework of our understanding of, okay, holograms, simulations, games, maybe it is, maybe it's not, but what's that mean? And how are you going to handle it? And how are you going to rewrite the code? And how are you going to recode yourself and rewrite your brain? And how are you going to move into a sovereign system? And what if you are able to grow something back? What if you are able to create a miracle in your body? What if you're mutating into a new type of being that doesn't that's only comparing itself to a human being, and that there's like something else happening here that's bigger? I mean, I know for me personally, I have had physical things in my structure shift, like my sternum, like my spine, like my ribs, where I understand, oh, I'm mutating. I'm
Yeah.
becoming something else. I'm not going to ask a doctor about this one. He's not going to know what this is. And
Yeah.
unless he's playing in the idea of a 12 strand, you could even talk to a 12 strand or talk to a doctor about the idea of a 12 strand. And to them, that just feels like a fantasy or some kind of psychotic way of looking at
Right.
things. You know,
Right.
I met a guy from London. His mother got put in the psych ward for saying she was the Mother Mary. You know, they were drugging all these people because they were saying they were the mother. And that's a whole nother story in itself, what's going on with what is called crazy and who determines what crazy is, and then medicine and people and putting them in these particular locations, and they're basically being extracted and experimented on, unfortunately. And, you know, I guess the best way to, it is kind of like what we were talking about in the beginning. Like, I pulled myself so far away from it all. Like, I haven't seen a doctor in so long, kind of thing. I forget that that world exists, kind of thing. And it's like, I do see it like Grey's Anatomy. I do see it. I do see the dark side, right? I see the plasma harvesting. I see the misdiagnosis of children that don't really have a disease. I see the hunger and the price for stem cells and just experimenting on humans and learning how they work and operate. And it feels like an alien experiment to me, you know, a multi-dimensional experiment. So I know, like, there's so much here on all the levels, and none of it being right and wrong, and like me opening my heart to like grace and understanding that there are still reasons to go to it, although I feel when we go, we're consenting to certain particular things. And I feel the psychopathic nature of the industry itself, and I have no bitterness to it. You know, I also understood my near-death experience was a preordained event on a very particular day. I think that was allowing me to remember how to reincarnate without dying, which is a whole nother story that we have to remember, that we're actually not here to die. That changes everything when you remember that.
Yeah, like if a person, you know, gets in a car crash, right? Like rush them to the hospital, get them to a fucking surgeon. Don't send them to me.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know what the fuck to do. Like, you know, someone's bleeding out. Like, I'm not your guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, there's plenty of instances where there's serious mastery in keeping you alive in the modern medical system. That's what they're good at. They're good at keeping you alive, not thriving, not healing, not living your best life, not, you know, like, it's just like, well, we can, if I dial up this and diminish this and change this and get these proteins to do this, and I get these cells to behave in this way, I activate these enzymes, looks like this person's going to live, you know? And so for myself, like, being on death's door for like, you know, a year in 2014, like, I had doctors keep me alive, like, and it was fucked up. Like, I was like right on the edge. Like, I felt like I was dying. I was like 118 pounds. I'm like 153 or something now, and I have muscle on my body. But before then, I was like 156. I was a mixed martial artist. I was jacked. I dropped all that weight, went down to like, you know, skin and bones. And so it's a weird thing, right? Because then you say, all right, well, this fallen planet and this fallen grid and the fallen templates and perhaps the issues of the GMOs and the issues of, you know, vaccinations and things like that, like, caused this problem in the first place, right? Like, you could say like there was a percentage of that stuff that was involved inside of that issue that caused that sickness. And, you know, it's like, it's just like naive humans. Like, it's like their consciousness is so, like, we think we're so evolved, but we're actually very primitive in our level of understanding, and primitive not in like the negative context, like where it's like, oh, look at these people, they're so primitive, they live out in the Amazon and they just like eat fucking fruit all day. Like that's not what I'm talking. That's actually a good thing. I'm talking more about like primitive in the sense of like, I mean, when you work with higher dimensional like archetype type beings, like like you can change matrices, realities, cellular matrices, like everything just instantly. And you learn how to do that yourself. Like like we all can do that. It's just we don't know how to. But like it's just like, and then we think that we know because like we can get some drug to do something to do something. So it's like a weird thing where it's like I look at us like we're so young, we're so naive in our consciousness, like the whole human race right now, and we're in a stage of rapid evolution and growth that's like exponential. And so some of it's going to be through AI, and then some of us are champions of the spiritual, right? We're champions of the organic path. But like both sides of this coin are actually accelerating the human timeline path at such a fast rate now that like we're quantum leaping forward in evolution at a rate that like, I mean, the internet did it, you know, like first. I mean, every single time information upgrades come, whether it's the printing press to, you know, the Renaissance to, all these different things, right? It upgrades the consciousness. And so I do think that the sort of spiritual ceremony session work, and the kind of like different styles that people have of doing it, it's upgrading consciousness. It's upgrading the way that we handle things. But I do believe in a humble approach around it. And I do believe in a humble approach too around like kind of looking at the medical system and being like, there are some people who are great people inside of that. Like there's some great doctors with great missions who have great goals, who are really freaking trying hard and are just, they're struggling with their template too. They're looking around like, what the fuck is going on, guys? Like, but I did save a life yesterday. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like confusing as fuck. And like, we're trying to upgrade all these templates. Like we're trying to get it all to a more pure, more articulated thing. And I think the more we can break down those walls of judgment and more we can come to a place where it's like the mystic can see the doctor and look at the doctor and say, aren't you really trying hard? That's awesome. Like you worked so hard to get to this level of like study and like, skill and all these things. Like you like you're doing a good job. And then the doctor can look at the mystic and say, well, geez, like, oh, this is so interesting. This person's miraculously healing things I've never seen. Oh my goodness, there's some interesting kind of energy going on here. I feel different in this person's presence. I feel like, and this person's describing experiences that actually make sense to me. Like if those things can merge together, that's what I kind of want. I do believe that the industrial complex around it, the sort of like pharmaceutical, like sort of like financial side of things needs to shift, like needs to break down, but the actual people, like the people who are on the missions, who have the goals to actually like help, right, on like both sides of the coin, like coming together, I think that that's a way that we can move the path forward rather than like a sort of like anarchy, like let's just fucking collapse all this shit and just call it all bad. And it's like, what the fuck are those people supposed to do? And those people are so sophisticated in their consciousness, they're actually very intelligent. So you think that they aren't sovereign? You think that some spiritual guru could come into their field and tell them that they're wrong and they're ever going to fucking buy that shit? Like, no, they're a boss. Like this person is like a boss of giant medical units and leads things and went to college for over a decade and knows all this stuff about the human anatomy. Like you can't tell them to put that Pandora back in a box. Like they have to integrate it, like we have to merge these things.
It's so tricky because what I've learned, and it would help me, right, to be in human interaction again in these spaces. But it's like the programming is so deep and everyone's programmed in function to do like one particular thing. Like there's got to be the preventative side of things. Like it is hard. I know I'm in judgment about the medical system. Absolutely I am. It's like, and I know there's like beautiful nurses and all the ones in it, but it's like from the top down structure. Yeah. It feels so Masonic. There's so much secret society going on. There's so much black market going on. It's hard to trust. And I've
Yeah.
had people tell me I've got the best at, like, I had someone, she was like, I just got diagnosed with cancer on my liver or my kidneys. And she's like, well, it's not actually cancer, but it's a spot and it looks like I should. And I've got the best doctor in Berkeley. And all of it was like, it sounds like they want your Romanian kidney, if you ask me, because
Mhm.
a Romanian kidney has immortal cells. And so I believe that you could heal this all by yourself if you just left the environment and the timing, frequency, and the lifestyle that you're committed to right now that's literally sucking you dry. And I would recommend that you might identify where you've had leaky energy towards any kind of parasitic entity, force, or ritual that you've been a part of in any time within your life, or where you've made contracts or sold your soul to the devil in any type of way. I mean, this is just the way I think on the non-physical side of, like,
Yeah.
before we go in there, let's look at some things.
Yeah, it depends how dramatic the situation is, right? Like, I mean, if someone's like less on a life and death sort of like circumstance, like maybe they could have more time to do this sort of like deeper inner work healing. I mean, the thing is like, so the spiritual is going to downstep into the physical, right? So it starts in the pre-manifest. And so it exists up here as all these potentials and all these different realities of these different energies flowing through this person of ancestral trauma, right? Like we know all this ancestral trauma, past life trauma, right? Some shit that they did when they were a teenager, right? Like whatever the fuck it is. Someone's calling me. Sorry. I don't have time for this shit. All right. So it exists as like all these different things. And then, you know, this person like goes through, so they've had it in their body for so long for it to crystallize and calcify into disease. Like this thing actually already has sort of like built matrices around it. It already has like a sort of structure to it, you know, like it's like it's growing, and then the question is, by the time you discover it, how bad is it? Is it like, you know, all right, this just, you know, uncomfortable, this person runs the bathroom a little bit much, or like this person, you know, like, you know, feels a little tired or groggy? Or is it like this person's on death's fucking door, you know? And when they're on death's door, I do believe that they need serious intervention. And the modern medical system is more of a it's a forcing based approach, right? It's not like a sort of gentle healing approach. It's more like, we are going to put these chemicals in your body that will make this shit happen. This will happen if we put this inside of you. Like if I put this antibiotic inside of you, all these bacteria are going to die. It also killed the good bacteria too, but for sure those bacteria are going. You know what I mean? Like, or it's like if I put this chemical inside of you, it's going to tell your DNA that or tell your whatever, your chromosome, it has to do this specific thing, right? For like genetic modification, like sort of therapy, so like, which was incredible for my friend who had cystic fibrosis. Totally changed his whole entire life, made him healthy. You know what I mean? When he was like crazy sick his whole life, until he took this one genetic modification sort of drug. And now he gained tons of weight back. He's like, you know, and he still has tons of trauma, you know, there's all this trauma, but like, and so it's just like, I really, and, you know, I have family who, you know, work in, you know, kind of the pharmaceutical side. And I've just learned to see it all as case to case. I really do think these things are very case to case basis. I think the different businesses are case to case basis, the different structures. I do like, there are very dark people, 100%, very dark people manipulating, corrupting, stealing from people. You know, some of these big sort of like organizations that are owned by BlackRock or Vanguard or whatever, you know, like these, like they, like for sure, 100%. And then when they get called out on their shit, they try and bypass, and then eventually a decade or two later, when all the people are all fucked up or dead, eventually it comes out that those people were actually true. That shit is happening for sure. And then it's, you know, but then that surgeon who saves people when they have a heart attack, you can't sum that person up with that person who made some fucked up drug to try and manipulate somebody. You know what I mean? Like that's not the same person. That's not the same thing.
You can't throw the whole system like it. Well, it's, you know, what we're talking about here on the medical level, it's the same as the religious level. It's the same as the monetary.
Yeah.
Now I left them all, you know, I left all of it. but then it's like, okay, how do you meet it? Like, it's all about, I see what needs to happen here, and just opening up my template to like, not just like fuck the system, fuck the police, fuck the government, fuck you know, kind of super anarchy for sure,
I mean,
to
I think
like
your
coming
template's legit
together.
though. I do think there's a
Right.
reason. There's a reason why you went that way. Like I think in order
Yeah.
to hold the pure structure to actually find it, you kind of have to radically go the other way. Like you have to study a different type of existence. Like it's what I just like my I said David Goggins, like you don't study anything in its normal environment. You have to bring it in some different type of environment. And so your different
Mhm.
environment is your, like you're saying, like heaven on earth. Like you're in Costa Rica with your partner, living outside the system, doing what feels fluid, what feels right, and manifesting and having epic adventurous experiences always in the ceremony, right? And downstepping heaven on earth and like making that template available for the people who don't even like know. And then like it's like, all right, the spiritual teacher person comes to you and they have a big following and they're making all kinds of money and shit, and they run into Alicia Young Hall Phoenix, who doesn't need any of that shit, and they have the most epic fucking adventure, you know what I mean? And like learn some shit that they wouldn't have learned through their whatever typical template, you know what I mean? And so I find that medicine of you, like that's why I wanted to talk to you, because I find it to be very credible. I find it to be very interesting, like to have its own kind of like power and strength and gnosis to it, and kind of like, something that's teaching all of us. Like, and that's what I saw when you went on Sology, like years ago. And then, I think that, there's other templates out there too, like, and, that person, like, who's to say there isn't some powerful grid worker that's in college right now studying to become a doctor? You know what I mean? Who's going to like revolutionize the modern medical system, or someone who, is inside of those pharmaceutical companies, who's going to wake up one day and is like, they're like a private eye, even though they don't fucking know it. Right. And the Illuminati sort of like factions, like the crystal children are still born in their fucking families. Like someone's going to be born inside of their little cult and is going to wake up and look around and go, everything's so fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, and help break it down. So the technology of resurrection and of the universe correcting these things is working. Like it is working. The astrological signs are working. The kind of like the dark nights of the soul are working. The hero's journeys, like the sort of collapse of structures, for rebuilding. And then having a narcissistic boss, having a narcissistic, like whatever, helping you heal your mommy or father issues, like whatever, like that shit still works. And so, but I think like it's being able to be aware of both. And like with me, like I want to be able to chill with you, and I want to be able to chill with that doctor. You know what I mean? And I want to be able to chill with the hustler, guru kind of archetype dude, and like be like, all right, but like what you really got going on, maybe something's cool here, maybe it's not. Like if I run into that guy, I want to be able to handle it. And I want to be able to chill with the rapper, who believes in some spiritual shit, but kind of just wants to hook up with hot chicks and like, but like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's like, all right, bro, like I get it, but like, come on, dog. Like, like we gotta actually heal, and we gotta treat the feminine better, and like I can actually access and talk to that dude in a way that another person can't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the gift actually too, when you speak up. When
Yeah.
you hold up your template like that and you can say that, because those are the things that need to be said at certain times, right? And so like that's how we all rise together, and that's virtue.
Yeah.
That's a virtuous template. And so it's like yeah, same thing. I mean, this is why I would still smoke every once in a while and all the things too, is it's like I want to be relatable and approachable and interchangeable, like with yeah, I feel like there's a preparation for that. There's like this returning to society, returning to humanity, returning to my home, returning, like it feels like something like that is coming about, and it's like the preparation for it. Because my daughter, who's almost 16, I have a son, and I have two sons and a daughter in the US. She's like, Mom, it's not as bad as you think. And I don't think it's bad. Like, I mean, the last time I went to the US, I was like, do you guys notice that there's like black cables wrapped around your water towers? Like, and with antennas, like that's not actually cool. Like I could see the infrastructure of some alien technologies,
For
and
sure. I
everyone's
see it
just going to
too.
work,
I see it.
and it's just like,
It's
whoa, what's
fucked
going
up.
on here?
Like, careful
But
about the doors you open, guys. Like,
and but I did feel invincible. I wondered, I was like, I haven't touched this land in 3.5 years. I know there's crazy shit going on. I know everybody got vaccinated. Like, there's food everywhere, there's gasoline everywhere, like there's concrete everywhere. It's like a war zone out there. It's like the last land. I'm still living it around the green all around me, and birds everywhere all the time. And so it's like, yeah, and you feel like you're coming from another planet actually, but you're just going to Texas, and you had to use this big aluminum bird to get there and all of the things. But no, I wondered, what will it be like when I get there? Will I be able to hold this same thing here? And it was 1,000,000% yes. And that's where I understood, like, okay, whatever, it has to do with the DNA strands too, which I believe takes place when you're in the no time. And so what I'm sensing that might be a part of the configuration for the ones that are called to turn on a template, there might be like a reconfiguring of the perception reality, but also just living in the no time, no space, in pure energetic fields. There's like a surgery going on multidimensional levels, just in the being. And that there are particular locations on the planet you might stay. I think I've been so like careful to say this because I want to believe we can do anything anywhere, but environment is important.
right.
And morphogenetic fields do have to do with environments. And so, yes, there is a possibility that someone could come into a different frequency field or a different environment and be able to climb a ladder or go through a quantum leap type of experience where they can then hold that field, turn on, let's say, that template, turn on that 12-strand DNA, let's say, might not even have the context to use such terms, and we don't necessarily need to. Not everyone needs to know how DNA works in that way. We're just, understanding this is happening. And then, but once that is turned on in an incubator type of space,
Yeah, well, the environment, so like the nature can do it, right? The nature can help you. Going to the different stargates, there's a sort of mystical travel journey that some people go on where they travel across we know homies in the community who are like that, right? They travel to the different temples or the different places and they sort of downstep the wisdom into their consciousness. There's the internal travel, the ability to sort of travel through dimensional realms or access the different layers of yourself that have been there in other lifetimes or are there. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to access it. But the thing is like, it's like the information needs to open up. It needs to be processed. It needs to, like, you need to, like, there's instruction sets that need to like come online inside of this layer of yourself. And like, the only way to really do it is like, you need to somehow engage it. And oftentimes you engage it through some sort of triggering experience too. It's not always positive and initially because it's unintegrated, right? It's a challenging thing. Like oftentimes initially when you integrate a new frequency or something that you don't totally have integrated. So you need to go through some sort of experience to do it. And that's actually why I kind of like to work with the multidimensional technologies, right? Like why I like to work with the rays, or I like to work with, like, I know as like the crystal platonic solids, like emanations of these sacred geometric structures that are purified to assist in like turning on those templates in a normal environment, right? Or to turn my bedroom into a super high dimensional temple. You know what I mean? To turn to be in any place and have my shields be a super high dimensional temple. So like to be able to access like sort of like the instruction sets, like I'm in the highest of the high frequency environment, but I'm just in a normal place. You know what I mean? And that's a style though. It's not the only way. And I don't believe that people have to do that. I understand when you say stuff like that, sometimes people come with skepticism because they initially start to, well, okay, you add all this additional layers on top of what's already natural, what's already there. Is that even worth doing? It's like, I'm doing it because I acknowledge that it's so fucked up out here. And I don't want to leave. And I kind of can't. So I'm creating a way where there wasn't a way, you know.
Mhm.
I'm
Exactly.
creating it, and like and so that's what that kind of like architect fix the broken frequency because the hero's journey made you do it type of energy is like you. So
Mhm.
and but once that way is like down step, like that's kind of what the grid worker type of mission is like once a way is sort of shared energetically with the field, with the all of the different grids and the morphogenic fields of the planet and the stargates and all of that, then normal humans don't need that. There will always be the mystics who go to the far end, who really study the technology, who really study the templates and sort of play spiritual scientists. There will always be those people. Even when it gets more pure into higher, it'll just be more fun, probably. But like, there will always be those people. It's just like, you know, because that's who we are. Like some, like my note as a frequency in the universe always heads back to this type of work. Every other lifetime I have, like I've, you know, my other lives I've experienced, you know, I remember, and all my other like multidimensional selves, aspects, and other realms are doing the same shit. You know, so like it's like my note does that, but the timelines of reality are designed for humans to go through heroes' journeys and experiences if they are following their truth, if they're following their heart, if they're really following their soul, their dharmic path. If they're really there, then they will, the timeline will trigger those things, right? They'll meet the person who holds the energies they need. They go to the nature environment that they need to. They go start the business. I mean, I know with you don't resonate with business. With me, business is definitely a thing in my field. But like, it like they'll go do the thing that's really challenging for them. They'll go to the edge, right? They'll jump off that cliff, right? Sort of like build the wings as they're flying. You know what I mean? Like as they're like falling, right? Kind of like that sort of like taking the leap of faith energy. They'll do it in those different settings and environments if they're following their path. And that's what a sort of organic, natural ascension path is supposed to be. The problem is there's just all these things in this reality that are trying to prevent us from doing that. There's all these, you know, governments, there's all this, you know, extraterrestrial influence, there's all this, you know, like secret cult factions, all, you know, different dark underground groups. There's all this shit going on, and then there's just like manipulation from just like your family, your tribe, your people around you, just telling you not to be yourself by judging you, you know. And so like I think we're in a weird time where it's like we kind of almost do need to create some weird, not weird, but some unique template to get to the purity, like, because to get the purity back on the planet, like we're
Mhm.
the, and so there's different styles of doing that.
Yeah, I'm all about bringing the purity back. You know, I was like, when I was on this path, I didn't know there was so much in the world about secret societies or occult or mystery school. It was like I was initiated through the near death and then on my own self initiatic path, I guess you could say. So then when I did start coming into contact with people that were in the mystic and the occult fields, like in my mind, I made this assumption that they were on the pure path.
Yeah,
And what I realized, like, yeah,
it
like
looks
that just
like it.
because they know that stuff. In fact, the fact that they do know that stuff, they may like, I don't want to make assumptions here, but that's like talking about a pure path still feels a little bit new here.
Yeah,
And it's like, especially even around like the sexual, the tantra, there's a lot of the lower nature, Sodom and Gomorrah is what I want to call it. It's like playing in that black and that red energy when we're talking about like the golds and the pearls and the heavenly colors and the crystalline colors. Like there's just no red in my dimension, and or orange or yellow. It's all crystalline, you know, like
really.
rainbow like. And but those things, it doesn't, it's spectrum. I understand that the gene keys are called the spectrum of consciousness. I have grace and understanding, compassion that there are many levels to this reality, and we all have our own dharma or destiny paths. And I'll say, like, I'm not going to be for everyone, that's for sure. I'm going to come to someone's reality that's likely ready to quantum leap into some kind of time traveling, rewriting time and space, reconfiguring quantum mechanics toroidal fields of energy, collapsing fields,
For
0
sure.
points, like really working in the like, yeah, but it's like I can also hang and talk to someone that needs to heal something in their family lineage, or an early childhood sex trauma, or a family, like it's like actually versatility is one of the miracle cities, Gene Key 16. All of this is the prophetic. And the Gene Keys is why I bring it up too, is because it brings in the 7 seals and the idea of the biological apocalypse and the idea of the rapture, which is the rapture is, because there can be so many things, ideas about what the rapture is, but to me, the rapture is the purification of the lower astral body. And then you can bring this into initiations. And it's all written in there and has been the whole time. And most people finding the Gene Keys are going just like for some individual shadow work, but there's more of a prophetic. I mean, I've even, as crazy as it sounds, and this could be so inappropriate to say, have questioned if Richard Rudd actually wrote this information, if this wasn't something in the vaults, if this wasn't something Library of Alexandria, Vatican, like it's just so like,
Yeah.
I mean, I give credit where it's due, right? Like his name's on the book and I thank him for that and all of the things. But like there have even been things that have come up in me about, but it is multidimensional information, you read it on one level, but then you read it on more of a collective, spherical, multidimensional, like holographic level. And technically, I guess the easiest way to say it is we are all part of one fractal family. We all wrote pieces of this. We're coming together. We need the whole fucking puzzle. We need every piece of the puzzle. There's many pieces in one puzzle, and that's the fractal coming together. That's the monad, that's oversoul. It's whatever terminologies we want to call it, like coming together as a 144,000 fractal family, if you want to use numbers to play the game, like something like that, to reconfigure this reality from the core fractal field. Like so goes us as a fractal, so goes the planet, working with the main core ones that have the impact to reconfigure something within themselves that reconfigures the whole thing down the line.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, Ashiana Dean, right, with like the Speaker One contract and all of that. And, and nowadays there's all these people claiming themselves to be Speaker One, Speaker Two, blah, 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 and then different people. I mean, people do have contracts. Like people do have contracts to do big things for this system. Like that is a real thing. And I also do experience that oftentimes when people are running around saying that, there's a little bit of something else going on. You know what I mean? Like there could be an overlay, or there could be some sort of, this person isn't addressing something else that's going on inside their consciousness, but then even like myself, like interdimensionally, like I wouldn't share these things publicly, but I have some things that could have some names to them, you know what I mean? Like that I'm doing, right? It's like interesting, right? It's all just kind of part of the process. Like I like that there are powerful pillars that come and do epic shit. I love that. Like I'm so glad that like, if Richard Rudd is doing an excellent job, that he's doing an excellent job. You know what I mean? And I don't want to look at it and like be like in a state of looking at him being like, oh, but this is everybody's, therefore he shouldn't have all this focus and attention put on him. This is some blah, 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 or like jealous, or like, and maybe if he was a cult leader, a guru or something, then maybe he would need to be called out. You know what I mean? But like, I'm just saying like, this is that kind of conversation of, I do believe that there still are some experts. I think there are people who have levels of expertise. I want to go to the medicine woman who's an expert herbalist. Like I don't understand herbalism that well. I have some plants that I kind of understand. You know what I mean? Like there's layers to what someone else can do for me. And, over a lifetime, someone can build excellent level gnosis. Like they could build like, and particularly someone like him, like if he studied a lot of different traditions, and if he really mastered and sort of synthesized that information into something that, was like he crystallized it, like he purified it and distilled it down to the wisdom that was needed, that was necessary, took out the distortions and turned it into something usable, that's excellent. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he did it. I don't know also what the interdimensional play was, like what spoke through his consciousness when he actually wrote those things too, because that's another thing about channeling. It's like, I mean, I don't channel, but I have tons of conversations interdimensionally. Can I take credit? Like what the fuck is credit?
Yeah, it's interesting when people say that, I've never felt like I channel or connect with any type of entity or being. It seems that his work and also the work of Ra Uru, who brought in human design, which was kind of like the one before the gene keys, but the same numerical system, and also based on the I Ching. So there's like these evolutions of it. Both of their stories are about something like they were not on any medications or medicine trips or anything like that. Something happened in their consciousness. They went out for a few days, and then all of us, like, let's say, downloaded these packets of light and brought this information through. So I can't confirm or deny that. It just feels quite familiar. And Library of Alexandria comes up. It's not about a jealous thing or saying, because I honor him and I think he's holding a beautiful mystic path. It's like, but there's just like something more like Nag Hammadi, Dead Sea Scroll about it. And when we do collapse time fields and we realize like linear time is the greatest construct of all, history is one of the greatest, time is the greatest construct in history, and even like primitive, you brought up that word earlier, and I was thinking about like those are the only real histories that the majority of humanity's been taught, is that we came from a primitive race. And I'm like, we were just ancient mystic bilocator time travelers, like not that long ago, actually. But like it takes a while for someone's, perceptional reality to be able to like, but I do believe that we've been prepared and that we're coming into a time. And now that I understand a little more about the idea of walk-ins, I mean, there's many definitions and variations of the explanations of the idea, but I know when I was in Austin, Texas, dying on that table, that you could call that a walk-in. You could call it a death and a rebirth. You could call it a resurrection. You could call it what I perceive it as my final incarnation. And then since then, it's been going from living a very human perspective reality of like, I'm living till I die, I'm working and I'm making the money and I'm paying the taxes, to all of a sudden being like spun into like galactic time traveler, bending time and space, quantum realities, to go from there to there, and then be like, oh, okay. And then to start to learn about books of the, Egyptian Book of the Dead or Tibetan Book of the Dead, and them talking about these ideas, these concepts, these realities of God's coming down into the form. And I'm saying this in a humble state because I'm recognizing the world of like everyone being like, I'm the God and I'm the goddess. And it's like, no, we're just like, we are Soul Fractal family coming together as a family to serve a very important plan and mission on this planet, is what I believe to be so. Each part is equally important. There's no need for and no time, in fact, for anybody to be worshipped for anything. It's like, it's fucking go time. Like, we got some keys, we got some codes, we got some blueprints, we got some maps. Like, let's get this done. Came to serve, came to rewrite something, came to liberate something. A planet and a human race. That's what we're working with. And I think that, and understanding what it means, Bardo states, to incarnate your final soul, to imagine that you don't have to die on a table to have a flip of a switch take place like that. In fact, even the idea of a solar event, well, there's no such thing as time. Everything that's ever happened and ever will happen has already happened. So now we're just leaping into becoming an event ourselves as we swallow the sun, so to speak. Like, that idea came to me, the swallowing of the sun and becoming the sun. Just since we've been on this call, it just keeps coming through over and over again, this idea of doing that. And then it's about the integration process, and that's the real death, right? And to me, I see that as the future of science. I don't believe that anyone's going to long-term be healed through typical medical science, as much as I feel like it's that shift from the outer to the inner, where all of a sudden you're sitting in the all-seeing eye or on that throne and you're realizing the eternal immortal nature of your existence. And from there, accessing and holding that template reconfigures, recalculates, remodels the entire physical matter plane. And like, that's a big flip, that's a big shift. And like, so I believe in, like, I understand like meeting the systems where they are, maybe helping and assisting and involving them, but I'm also like, that system is kind of on this path. I'm open to bridges, you know, for sure.
Yeah.
Open to bridges. Like, I think that's why us talking is how we do it, because we're bringing templates together to the master templates.
Yeah. For sure. It's different. You like, you know, you're living a different existence than me out in Costa Rica, which sounds lovely. Sounds phenomenal. And I'm out here, right? Like where I am, like kind of like working with all these systems and all these things that be, you know, I got like a job, you know, like whatever, but like also like I live such a freaking mystical experience. You know what I mean? Like I'm always, every single day, it's all day, every day. Like there's things going on, you know what I mean? So like it's a different ways of doing it. I think it would be excellent if like everyone could be in just like the full integrated flow of timelessness. I do experience that timelessness does it does give you the access, the ability, the space, right, to be able to actually like integrate, right, like the different layers of yourself and be able to like, it's no rushing energy. You don't have that kind of like cortisol based like sort of like stress hormones of like things you have to get done, tedious task like type energies type shit, you know. But then also like there's the, I don't know, like I like living life like a video game. You know what I mean? Like I kind of like the idea that I kind of want to be a rapper. You know what I mean? Like I kind of want to make some music and perform on some stages, and that would require me to, there's like tasks involved, right, to be able to do that. Like, you know, go to the places, work with the musicians, work with the people, right, do the stuff. We got to move some money around. We got to, you know what I mean? Like there's stuff involved inside of that. And then like, you know, I do want to share my tools with people, and I want to share that they're mine, but I want to share the things I do. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm learning how to do that. I like, it's been such a freaking journey for me to try. Like I've held back so much for so long. You know what I mean? Like I'm just like, and it bothers me like in my sort of like soul, in my, like, it's like frustrating, right? That it's like, I watch all these people, right, sell their courses, sell their sessions, sell their mystical things, right? You know what I mean? It's like those people come to me for sessions. You know what I mean? Like that's like, and I'm not trying to say that to make myself sound better. Like some of them do though, not everyone, but like, I'm just saying like, I know how to do stuff. You know what I mean? And like, I want to use it. I want to use my services, right? I want to use them in specific ways. And so I do see business as kind of an adventure, but then it comes in this, how do you do an ethical business? How do you not become a cult leader? How do you not manipulate people to think that they need some shit? How do you just make it a, like, hey, like it's like a yoga class, come through if you want, you know what I mean? Like type of energy rather than, you know, like whatever. And so like, but that's the type of challenge that you have to like remap to make some shit happen, because the old template's fucking broken. You know what I mean? And then like, but I'm aware that that's a bridge. I want temples. I want us to have tons of different places people can go for free. I want us to get back into that template. I want the mystics to have a place to live, and I want the people to be able to come to the mystics, and I want them to go there for free. That's a many decades mission. That's going to take some time. That's going to take getting some money together, some funding together, some tribe together, some all these different things to be able to actually build that structure, get the legality right, get the dang everything right, you know, so that now people can come to this temple, and, you know, the person who's in a nightmare doesn't have to, hey, you can get this immense trauma healing if you have a few $1,000. Fuck that. Like, no one who's in a dark night of the soul crisis has time for a bunch of fucking money. Like they got too much shit going on, you know. If they're in addiction and shit like that, like chances are they're probably broke. Like, so you need to build the structure so that they can get the help that they need, because they're still a valuable soul, even if they don't have money. Like they're still
Especially if they like, money has devalued humans on all levels and demoralized them in so many ways too. That's just the honesty of it. I get the whole like neutral, like money's just neutral, it's just energy. Yeah, and it's we've seen what it's done. I understand, like every time I go into ceremony, the things I'm writing about are about money laundering and cleaning the money. And I kind of joke around, give me some MDMA and a millionaire, and let's talk about how they can, you know, contribute to a nonprofit to serve exactly what you're talking about. I see that vision, that mission. I feel that like 40 days, 40 nights, like people being able to come and leave a world behind, and literally, instead of taking their life, resurrect their life, you know, like leave the whole thing behind, get off the tech, eat clean, sit in nature, and just let the thing happen that's meant to happen. I call it the Da Vinci Code, the idea that we all have all of our basic needs met. And I'm not talking about through the government where you got to report your blood work to them every week either. I'm talking about everybody has everything that they need so we can do what we really came here to do. And so it's like, I'm not anti-business. Like I get that I do have to remember actually sometimes that the world still runs on money, and I still have to have a little bit to pay my rent and my house, and it's not easy. It's very skinny. You know, it's like in a way it's put me in places to fast and live so simple and eat a lot less. It's like there's been a gift in literally only having enough to just have what I need, so to speak. And I would like some incense, and I would like some rose oil, and I would like some toothpaste, and you know, and I would like to have. And so I've been going through that eye of the needle, so to speak, in the dematerialization process, and I'm finally coming out like there is no fucking reason why we don't have every tool and every candle and everything that we need to serve in the way that we're here to serve, and that we don't, like, that's been my biggest dream and vision from the beginning, that we would have like just people be able to come from wherever, whenever they want, and that we could serve them with our sprouted lentils and our avocados and like whatever, and our fruits, and like, and not even think one for a second, like, how is it going to be paid? That it should be funded and it should be taken care of. And there's enough money to go around that we shouldn't already, actually shouldn't even take decades. I'm a time bender, so I like the idea of bending the time, but it's like, that is a vision. And that is like, I love that you're saying it and I feel it. And I guess I'm literally coming through the like pretty much denying myself of all things and being able to find pure bliss in the center of that. And then being like, okay, I'm done with this template. I don't mind being a millionaire. I don't mind being, you know, I don't mind being the one that has it to pass out to everybody, because I will, because I've met the ones that have it all and don't. That's how I feel
too. That's how I feel. And I feel like I have really chosen to allow myself to, like, I mean, it's different for you. This is my path, like to kind of look like the loser dude. And like that hurt me. Like that really bothered me. But like being the guy who, you know, didn't have the, you know, the cool outfits, didn't have the whatever, didn't have like the, you know, and just like always studying some mystical thing I don't tell anybody about, you know, until Sology I didn't really tell. And then I started telling, then people seemed to dig it, you know what I mean? But like I have learned to accept that I actually do want to share, and I actually do want to mentor people, and I do want to teach people or do sessions for people, and that's not coming from a place of superiority or a place of like myself like trying to exploit my tools. Like my tools, they aren't mine. I always say like they aren't mine, you know what I mean? Like trying to exploit the wisdom or the tools, which is the stuff I was afraid of. Like it's not that. It's like I think we get to have fun in the playground. I think we get to have fun in the sort of time period that we're in, the sort of matrix that we're in. We're in the year 2026, you know? So like we're aware of the higher dimensions, and we're aware of the future, and we're aware of where it's headed, and we are the builders of the future. you know, like whether it be through literally, like what I said, building the temples, right? Becoming the millionaire and then literally buying the temples and then being like, that's my fucking temple. You guys aren't going to fuck with that. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what I'd say legally. And then it's everybody's temple. You know what I mean? But as far as the government and everybody else goes, it'd be like, fuck off. You know what I mean? like become that person. And if that's through becoming a big hip hop artist, or if that's through building some sort of business, it just becomes like, well, how the fuck do I do it without fucking it up? Like having it fall and having it become like some sort of weird culty ass shit. Because like I also acknowledge being like a mystic like myself, like being like a sort of like guy who works with rays and dimensions and geometries and clearings of chakras and spheres and everything like that. You come in contact with another person's field and sometimes they get so mystified and so like amazed by it that they don't even know exactly what they're consenting to with people like me. And like that's kind of like a thing that I'm transmuting, is that sort of mystic magi archetype, like the kind of like, you know, untrustworthy magician. And I know untrustworthy magicians. I know them. I know who the fuck they are and I know how to handle them. But like it's like a weird thing, you know what I mean? Like to like have to like deal with that shit. And like, because it is an archetypal frequency. Carl Jung described it, right? Like the magician being one of the 12 main archetypes. And it's not just spiritual people. There's also like CIA people that would fit into that archetype, right? And so, and it's not that I over-identify with that either, right? I'm all the other archetypes too. It's just like, you know, that's something that, you know, when you talk about mystical energies or doing, you know, sort of spiritual energy work, you know what I mean? Like that kind of fits into that sort of realm, the ability to influence consciousness.
I've been all day. Ceremonial magic.
Yeah. So it's like, but I feel like I'm transmuting. I'm sorry. We've been here for a long time. We might need to hang up pretty soon. But
oh, you're doing great. River just wanted to show me some flowers.
Yeah. As long as your kids get what they need to, as long as she gets what she needs to. Yeah. So just the I'm transmuting the distortions of my elders. Right? My teachers, my mentors, my whatever. Right? It's part of my path. I have to transmute the things that some of my mentors did that didn't go so well. You know, they were also geniuses too, right?
You got to see it from the inside, whereas I was on more of a self-initiated path, so I didn't know what was going on. You got to see what was being carried in these lineages from the distorted side of things too, and like bring that through into the purity. You know, Aleister Crowley's coming to mind big time, and I didn't know much about him, but it was my birthday a few years back. It was the same year, November 18th, that the Christic spiral and the Fibonacci were going to intersect at the 144. And I remember I was in the medicine field, I was working with some stuff, and all of a sudden I just said, clear the black magic curses of Aleister Crowley in the Giza pyramids. And then the next day I went to research him more, and I saw that he had become a part of the Order of the Golden Dawn on November 18th, my birthday. So quite an anniversary of that particular day. And it's like, we're rewriting what you might call intentional black magic to white magic. And also like, it's like, it's the passing of the torch from something that, and I mean, I'm seeing people that are working in the occult that are taking their lives. Let's get real about this. And I'm saying this out loud. You sell yourself to the devil, so to speak, and you will lose your life.
For sure. Well, the thing is like, and this is a problem a lot of people don't know. And this is like a challenge actually when it comes to doing energy work, is that sometimes you might stumble into some shit that Aleister Crowley did by working with the sacred geometry. So like with the platonic solids, that's why I work with the crystal emanations, the platonic solids, because he used those things for specific things. This is getting really deep. But like that geometry is just a base foundational building block of reality. It's literally just a neutral thing. Plato described it, therefore it's called the platonic solid, but it's literally just a sacred geometry. It's not anybody's, you know what I mean? And so this is where some people will like see that stuff and they immediately they can feel either the darkness of the practitioner, or they can feel their past lives where they engaged with some of these emanations. Like I like, it's very interesting cleaning up people's connections with the platonic solids, because like sometimes people were in ceremonies where they used them for very dark things in other lifetimes. Like, and that's like kind of a thing. Like we were at war in past lives, like different magi groups, mystical groups, the witches, the magi, like they were at war and they did some fucked up shit on both sides of the spectrum. There's some truth to there being like black magic witches out there. I dig my witchy women. Like I dig them. I really do. I think they're awesome. But like also simultaneously, like sometimes they did harm some people. And like there's truth to like the kind of more Templar dudes like fucking up and killing a lot of those witches. You know what I mean? Like they were at war. You know what I mean? Like, and it's an interesting thing to be aware of, like in kind of like old mystical traditions, that a lot of them did sell out to different spiritual beings, different darker collectives or different darker constructs, and actually consent to them portaling into this realm. I mean, Aleister Crowley, my understanding is he did it to manipulate the timelines, and he really manifested the world wars. He did that right at the turn of the century in the 1800s. And that was massive portals of dark collectives, right? Like sort of like stealing tons of souls and tons of like terrible things occurring. And so it's one of those things where it's kind of like that's what makes it almost kind of hard to be the wizard in the woods archetype, or to be the tribal shaman who lives out in the Amazon and I'm just doing my thing. I don't want to be part of any of this stuff that's happening with the crazy people in the normal society. And then some fucking psychopath takes over some group, and he took over that. Like the Golden Dawn was not as fallen until that guy took over. It was fallen, but like they were trying to like there were tons of different practitioners inside of it. Like I'm very schooled in this. I've done a lot of work with a lot of mystics to clean up his stuff, particularly in the grids. But like, and like yeah, there's a lot there for me. But like it was like they were trying to bring back these spiritual traditions from all these different spiritual places and bring them to an organized place where people could practice. And it was a cult and it was hidden and all these different things. But then along comes this psychopath who's like, I can use this. And he just dominated everyone's will and everyone's structure and everyone's templates, and then corrupted every single fucking thing and just caused massive fall, like for the planet, for all these different things, and portaled in all these dark avatars, all this shit. And so I do feel like some people need to be able to stop people like that. And that's a weird thing to, negotiate, but like there are psychopaths in this world, and the spiritual tools exist for them too. Like, and so it's like, and it's not like a savior. It's not like a savior type thing. It's just like, it's like you're doing your thing. Everything's fine until you run into that person. You go, oh, fuck no. Oh, and I'm not scared of you, buddy. Like it's a different. Yeah.
I think of Robert Edward Grant as you say this.
Yeah, I've heard things about him.
And he is my Chiron wound. And he calls himself Sir, and he was knighted on the Friday the 13th, and he was in the Vatican the next day talking about Gene Keys, and there was like, and I'm trying to stay. He's talking about the AI and the singularity, and I'm like, it's like, oh, I want everyone. I followed him for years, but I saw a shift happen in him, including even in his physical structure that looks a little more Luciferian. And then his group is called Orion, and I'm thinking of Orion Electrical Wars and like the intuition. There's this like love everything and non-duality and integrate it all, and all is well and everything is for you. And then there's like, are there people out there that are doing things with ulterior motive?
Damn, we're going into all of it. It's all right. So there are.
I'm gonna get my charger. Keep rolling with this.
All right, true. Let me see if I should even say.
Yes, of course you should fucking say it if it comes to your head, please.
It's a lot for people to experience, but all right. So, all right, and this is for the people who are leaders. This is not for the normal mystic out there who's just working on themselves individually. Once someone gains a ton of following and a ton of power, financial, spiritual, mystical ability to influence change in this reality, right? Depending on what that type of power is, you better believe the dark collectives want them. Like that person has a massive field of influence over a lot of individuals. Like those dark collectives want that person, but There's this thing called dark avataring an individual, where they fracture open that person's consciousness and use their traumas against them, and they hijack them and they put another essentially consciousness inside of their higher chakras, but they keep the lower chakras intact. So that individual looks like themselves and acts like themselves to a certain degree, but the mysticism, the energetics behind everything they do are now from a different place than what it originally was. And so that person was running perhaps a template, perhaps even had goals, perhaps even had things that were in alignment to a certain degree, but now it's fallen. It flips, it changes. And then there's a certain percentage of that. It's not always 100% that occurs. Sometimes that can happen in a partial percentage. Sometimes that can happen in a full percentage. And I've literally seen that happen to someone before. It's fucked up. It's part of how the dark influence or manipulative energies work. And it always uses someone's weaknesses and their traumas against them. It uses their relationship dynamics against them. Like if they go through a breakup, it uses their drug use against them. Any backdoors in that person's consciousness. Like I said, that is for an individual who has an enormous following, you know, like a person who's like, or like enormous amount of power. They don't have to have a big following, but power over the grids or power over the planet or power over the templates. Like, and it's very much a conversation once you get to like higher levels that like people have to be aware of that. Like they have to be aware that like they have to keep a field of like sovereignty and purity, because like it's not a game anymore. You know, it's different when it's just you. And it's different also when you have a big group of people who are receiving your sessions or who are receiving that you actually are responsible for the people, not responsible for them like if you're saving them, like responsible like if you put some shit in their consciousness, you really fucked up. Like they came to you for help and you made it worse. Like you're going to be held karmically liable for that shit. And if it's not caught by others, I'll hold you karmically liable for that shit. You know, like, but karma is not always a bad thing. Karma is also a learning tool. Like it's not the end of the world. Like karma will teach lessons to individuals. So I don't know what's happening with Robert Grant. What you're describing sounds something similar. It very well could be the case. Yeah.
What you're saying is important, and even that you brought up the idea of there being some that are called into the responsibility of confronting those things, and then how do you really do that in a world, and you know, in this type of like there's a measurement of who's important and who isn't, but you can recognize there's something going on with the portals, there's something going on with the numbers. He's bringing the 144 to Machu Picchu, he's got private things going on in the pyramids, but then he's having boat parties and really relating to the idea of like, I've got women coming into my field and I'm having parties and I'm having fun, and then we're doing rituals in courtyards with sundials, and I'm the sir, and the AI is activating everything, and I'm just like, okay, I want to believe that we're all here for the same thing. And I know that he created a contact that reads that telepathy, like that he was CEO of Bausch and Lomb Pharmaceutical, and that he's a Mason for sure, you know. So it's like, yeah. And then I'm like, okay, clean my shit, pull the thing out of my eye, everything, you know. But then there's like, when do you come to a level of purity and standard and integrity that you say there's something a little off here?
Yeah.
And you know, and then when you've got millions of followers, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, Instagram turned off my account. Everybody come to my Orion creation that he made, which feels like to me that it's about mimicking and extracting highly intelligent fields of energy into AI.
There's an interesting thing to be said here, though, which I think brings it full circle back to everyone's sovereignty, right? Not to be afraid, right? Not to get into sort of like, is that this is part of the discernment process for everybody. People need like as unfortunate as it is in this lower density type of realm where there are all of these predator consciousnesses and predator type of people, as well as like predator, you know, just like traumatic experiences that people have been through in all these different realities, all these different situations. Like you might end up in some situation with a narcissistic cult leader who has some sort of spiritual power, right? in order to transmute something around that, in order to actually heal some sort of trauma inside of that, inside of this lifetime or a past life, or some sort of parental issue that you had, or some sort of whatever. So it's not to bypass and say that any of that is good. It's not good. And it should, and, you know, people need to discern and need to be sovereign and say no, you know what I mean? But like also simultaneously, and like, there are those people, you know, who will step forward and say, like, energetically say no, right? People will step forward. I mean, like, there's a lot of missions going on people do not know about. That's the thing. Like, a lot of spiritual practitioners, like I get it. Like, people are in their hero's journeys, they're in their stories, they're in their kind of things, and they're just living their own little adventure. But there are some mystics like us out there who just like, oh, I'm going to the fucking stargates. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to the place. Oh, like I just did like 3 grid work ceremonies in the last 3 days type shit. You know what I mean? Like that's the type of like life, you know, like some of us live like, and like so there's different things that are going on this planet. There's agendas that people have that need to be stopped. Like, there's specific things that like are being shifted and like course corrected and all of that. I personally lately have just been focusing on my own template. I'm not focusing so much on planetary stuff so much. I only ever do something if I really feel like it's a big deal. So I shouldn't say that too much, but like, I'm not doing that much on that. It's more on, right? And that's like how I feel better. I feel more in alignment with that, like to focus on myself unless it's a big deal. But I do feel like, I just feel like there needs to be people who can step in and be like, fuck around and find out with me now. You know what I mean? Like a type of energy like that. Like, oh, I get it. Like, you just dominated all these people's consciousness and all that. Oh, fuck around and find out with me. You know what I mean? Like, type of energy.
I wonder what it looks like, though, to have divine intervention councils. Truly, what does actual divine? There is no doubt in my mind that's
what they are happening. We're doing them in the like the tribunals are happening in the higher realms. There are all different types of interdimensional councils involved in them, and being.
And I mean us embodying that and having them in the physical on this plane with the direct characters. Like, I know we do a lot in dream time and astral and like things like that, but I'm talking about like, you know, we are the cosmic disclosure. We are here to embody the template of our 12th dimension and higher self, our avatar self. We are the return of, I don't ever call myself an alien. I joke sometimes I'm an illegal alien in Costa Rica according to the laws, but I don't really call myself an alien. I call myself a celestial being. But there is this idea of aliens coming to this earth, Palladians coming to this earth. And I don't know why the imagery that's being put in the field looks like, you know, like these little
yeah.
And I'm like, no, we're fucking here right now. We live and breathe and speak vitality and life force and pure love. We're here. We sing songs of heaven. We're walking on this earth plane right now. We are the righteous. And it is time to have these councils and conversations. And I've realized in my reality and my experiences, like down on the ground, feet on the street too, directly understanding how the Masonic orders and secret societies have been working. It's like, there is not a Justice League, a true Justice League.
Yeah, it's hard, right? Because like, you know, so many people don't want that, right? Like, and I get it. Like, people don't want savior, sort of like hero type templates. Like, it's why it's so hidden. It's such a strange thing, but like the true person who's like going to be going to the locations and like doing the things that like have like a sort of very big shift on the grids, oftentimes it's very sketchy for them to like say it publicly. And so they are hidden, and gradually that's becoming more of like a present, like sort of like thing that can be seen. And, you know, it's becoming more and more safe to be able for people to be able to share that based off like the whole planet changing, like the whole, like the planet being cleaned up, you know what I mean? Like, and like humans integrating more of their templates, the government's becoming, they're still sketchy, but it's not the same as it was 50 years ago. Like, you know, people like us be hunted down type shit, you know, like it's different, right? Like, you know, like I keep saying type shit. I'm hanging out too much with these dang 20-year-olds in my job, but they always say type shit, but it's
I mean, it's my language for sure. Like I'm down for it.
Yeah. But like, it's like, there's there are things that are occurring that are kind of like that. Like there definitely are. I think it's also hard too, because if people really knew that, like they'd start worshiping those people, you know, and that's not the point, right? And it does create a savior guru archetype. I've seen that shit go wrong. I've seen that with a member of my community who was doing quite a bit of things, like very publicly, like very big missions. Yeah, I've seen that shit go wrong. So like, I, you know, I don't know. I don't know what the right move is on it, to be honest. I don't know what the, like, I guess I'm learning that for myself. Like, how much do you really share about, you know, the stuff that you do, the impacts, and like, you know, like, is it necessary? Because like your ego, right? The ego is a crafty ass thing too. Part of it is like negotiating your own stuff. Like, you know, like if you're going through some shit and it's really hard, like you might want some validation. You might want some hero worship. You might want some, you know, people to think you're really great, you know, and it's like, that's a trap.
No, that's a bit, here, let me show them this ice. We have an old school freezer and we have to thaw our ice out. And it's like, I always say we're melting the secrets of Antarctica, or
There's penguins here.
oh, there's penguins here.
Oh,
Oh, all right, you can put it back now.
penguins in
No,
Costa Rica. We should probably hang up this call pretty soon. We're going pretty long in real human time.
Yeah, no, I'm happy for all we've talked about here. It's really nice to bridge the worlds with you. I still don't know your galactic archetype. I'd like to know what it is and do the math with us. But no, it's been great to bridge the worlds. It's been great to get to know you. We know each other through the ethers, through Soology, understanding like we come from the same tribe in a way. And yeah, we're just over here putting together these templates, bridging these worlds. And I always say I surrender to the highest timeline for the greater good of all.
Yeah,
it's same. A planetary service, right? And it's like, and that's what we're calling each and every one of us into. You don't have to know what that looks like. It might look nothing like you might think. You know, when I started surrendering to this highest timeline, or waking up every day saying, how may I be of service? I didn't know that it would look like a collapse of my family structure, or leaving behind of banking systems, and like not knowing where I get my next food. Like I didn't know it would look like that. But I've surrendered to the highest timeline for the greater good of all of humanity. And that's the invitation for each and every one of us. And it's going to look different for each and every one of us. But from that level of pure service, we can start to be equipped and empowered with the resources, with the connections, with the networks that we need to really move the planet forward. And that's the level we're at right now. We are the DI, we are the divine intervention. There's no doubt about that. You know, in one of my books about planetary ascension by Jose Arguelles, talks about the Syrian High Command and the idea that we're on a planet of free will and you can't mess with anyone's free will. But that the Syrian High Command came down to the earth to sit with the people and to see what was going on, to only interfere or intervene if there was a sense that there was going to be the destruction of an entire planet.
Yeah.
And I say that without fear. I believe we're at that moment. That's why we literally came in this very particular moment to rewrite the fall of Atlantis, is what I like to say. We can put in a lot of different stories, a lot of different archetypes. To me, Atlantis has never ended. It's not a hidden thing 12,000 years ago in an island that's gone away. It's right here, right now. We're seeing it with the genetics. We're seeing it with the experimentation. We're seeing it with the crystal technology, which is basically our phones. We've seen the fallen that and so we're here to invite all angels, all fallen angels, all beings to return to the light. It's really that simple. And it's every single one of us that's carried the distorted templates, that's maybe gone through satanic rituals, that's maybe fragmented the soul, that's maybe born into a particular bloodline. And we just came to purify all that shit. The reunion, Eduardo wants to say something. The reunion
of the original sun of the heaven in the center, the water,
with the fire and the Holy Spirit.
Okay, so it's the reunion of the original sons of God is what he says, and the uniting of the tribes with the water and the Holy Spirit. Yeah.
The water, the fire.
The water and the fire. Yeah. Yeah, it's the full resurrection, you know. We all, and it is like for the sake of not wanting to be appearing as or speaking as such thing as a guru or a hero or any one of those things. We're not speaking from that is one of the things that actually keeps people from stepping up in their righteousness template. You know?
It's a fear of becoming the thing that, you know, you've seen other people do it and you don't like it. Like, you're like, geez, like this isn't the way, you know what I mean? But like, there's a difference between being a person who's kind of like on the sidelines judging everybody and being a person who is in the game. You know, and the people in the game, they have to go through real things. They have to go through ethical challenges. They have to go through questions. They have to go through templates that are broken and fix some shit. And, you know, like it's hard. It's hard to know what to do. Like, I even have compassion for someone who, you know, like fucked up, who was a leader of different things. Like you know, like sometimes the stakes are higher, right? Sometimes it's a different thing that they're dealing with, you know, and there are dark forces out there. There are things trying to stop things. So I think we like trust, like having trust and faith that if you get in the game, if you do keep that purity of heart, if you keep coming back to it, even if your heart gets broken, especially when your heart gets broken, come back to your pure heart, you'll be fine. This is an adventure story. What the heck did you incarnate into a body for? To just go do some shit someone told you to do, or to go on your adventure? Like, what the fuck are you here for? You know?
Every day is a galactic adventure. That's what I say every single day, every single moment. A lot of it's in the stillness and the peace and the calm and the relax. And then I'm like, all right, let's see what galactic adventure is coming at us today. Let's see who we're going to encounter on this galactic day. You know, today is the cosmic hand in the Mayan cycle, galactic Maya. It's always the day we take cosmic flight. Today carries the energy of healing, accomplishment, and intuition. And so I feel, and it's part of this blue eagle wave. So we've been in the last 13 days, we're finishing it up today with these topics. It's been about the bigger picture, the higher vision, and we encountered each other during this particular cycle. And so I feel like the importance of what we're bringing together and the excitement for that. And yeah, just holding the field high, holding the field pure and true, not selling out, not compromising, and really just being the fields of initiatic templates that invite people to rise just by being. There's no preaching needed. Yeah. Now, there might be some that come to drink from the well and ask a question and we're ready. But really, it's through embodiment. This is undeniable, beyond the idea of any kind of dispute of any sort. It's the living truth. It's the living life. It's undeniable. And yeah, just carrying these templates forward. And, you know, there's no such thing as running out of time or anything like that. Everything is in the no time. But we're bridging the gap in linear time and defying gravity, so to speak, and bending time, and recalibrating and reconfiguring things, just like we can within our own self on an individual basis. And then ultimately, I've always seen this from the beginning. This is how I have compassion and acceptance for a perpetrator, like I do a victim, is that I understand, and I've seen it for myself, and the template corrections haven't come into full play yet. But I understand that particular angels were put in positions that are not the most angelic at this moment in time to literally pull out of them or liberate them for our planet, to model that transfiguration.
And that's part of the problem with when you have a powerful member of your spiritual community who has some weird ethical shit going on. They can still be that type of person. They can still be that high level angel who's transmuting the shit that no one else wants to or can. So you have to have your boundaries around them, right? You have to be conscious that, you know, there's some things that I don't play with and I'm not going to consent to. And I'm also certainly not going to lead anyone else there, like give this person credibility, which is something I had to learn over time, giving other practitioners credibility by working with them, because people trust me. My trust is actually a valuable thing, like people trusting me and then, trusting who I trust. So that's all like stuff to learn, right? It's stuff to learn along the way. But also, hey, I want that person to heal.
Mhm.
The world to be a better place if that person heals. I have no hate in my heart for anybody. I got no time for that shit. I got no time to be mad, like it's, I got no time to be mad at exes. I got no time to be mad at whatever. Like, like it's so much better when we can find harmony, when we can find alignment, and when we can find right relationship, whatever that is with, individuals, and I this is a long journey. So, it'll be decades, like it'll be very long. Like like in 0 point no time fields, it's all present, but also like, I mean, that person who's in a fallen state right now could be the hero in a few years. Who the fuck knows?
Mhm. But that's the seed that we plant today, is inviting everyone to return home, no matter how far you've fallen. It's never too late. In the blink of an eye, in the moment of an eye. And I that's actually the storyline that I've seen in my mind play out, is, and also like a walk-in type of situation almost, where the ones in certain positions of power with resources have a change of some sort, a change of heart and a reconfiguration, and there's a recalculation of everything. And so, I mean, I don't get too tied into one story, but I also shouldn't deny the visions I see being pretty unplugged and far away from what's really, not getting too distracted out there, and just like, okay, I see how this is going, I see where it's going, I don't know when and I don't know how and I don't know who, but I know, hold the field high, be patient, come into the configurations with the ones that come into the field, and then we just start to like bring it into the form.
For sure. Well, I think that's a good spot to leave it. I'm so honored that we chatted. Thank you so much, and thank you, Marcus, for holding the back. Being able to build this out. I wasn't able to stream it on my page because I don't know. We didn't logistically figure it all out beforehand. So I don't know. I'll figure out something to do with it. It's up on Phinix's page, and I'm very grateful to upload with the two of you, to flow with you. And I think there's a lot in this. There's a lot of codes. We accessed a lot of stuff. So it's very interesting. I'm very, very excited. So yeah.
Yeah, me too. It's so good to get to know you on this level. And who knows, maybe we'll end up seeing each other in September. That'd be pretty cool. But I'm happy to be bridging these worlds with you. And yeah, thank you, Marcus. Much love to everyone.
Yeah.
See you next time.
See ya. Much love.